Baxter Davis thought his hardest battles were fought at work, lifting heavy furniture under the blazing Texas sun. But nothing could prepare him for the betrayal brewing within his own home. His wife, Megan, once his best friend, now distanced herself, influenced by the manipulative Maxine Gullett. A fateful night in a red dress shattered everything. Megan unapologetically announced her date with another man. Baxter's heartbreak turned to fury as he stood his ground, locking her out and reclaiming his dignity. Amid fiery confrontations and shattered trust, Baxter faces a brutal truth. The love he fought for is no longer his. Will his resolve to protect his family prevail, or is it too late? Baxter Davis drove home after a tough day at work. He had spent hours moving heavy furniture and equipment, lifting items that could weigh between 100 and over 300 pounds, and putting them away high up in the rafters. Working as a mover in the hot Texas summer was hard on the body, especially when you worked for 16 hours straight. If you were sitting on a bed, a chair, or even folding clothes, chances are Baxter had handled and cared for those items before you used them. Baxter was of Irish and Polish heritage. At 31 years old, he stood 5'9" and had a slim build, thanks to wrestling in high school. Even though he had lost some muscle over the years, he stayed healthy and fit. As he drove home, Baxter felt uneasy. He knew that while work had been difficult, home might be even harder as he prepared for a tough situation ahead. Baxter and his wife, Megan Miller Davis, had been married for over 5 years. Both 31, she stood 5'6" and also had Irish roots. They had 2 children, Melissa, 13, who was born before they finished high school, and Alex, 8, who came shortly after their marriage. The first years of their marriage had been great for Baxter, but a few years back things began to change. When he tried to talk to Megan about their relationship, she often seemed uninterested and made him feel like he cared only about one thing. She would say, "I'm just not in the mood. It happens. I'm not something you can just have when you want." Baxter was confused. It had been nearly 3 weeks since they had been close, and when he tried to discuss it, she would dismiss him. He felt worried and frustrated, insisting that they needed to talk about their issues or their marriage might not survive. Megan, however, disliked that Baxter was strong-willed and not easily swayed. She told him that stress at work was making her distant. Sometimes she offered weak apologies, but Baxter could sense that her respect for him faded, especially during family gatherings. In front of others, particularly her new friend Maxine Gullett, she often made him feel small. Maxine appeared like a character from a spy movie with pale skin and a supermodel-like appearance. Her hair was slicked back, and she always looked stylish. Though she was beautiful, there was a harshness to her, and from the start, her attitude toward Baxter was unwelcoming and unfriendly. She came because Megan invited her, but she was not at all thankful to Baxter. Maxine planned to take little digs at him. Baxter quickly put a stop to that when she started poking fun at his grilling skills. "Do you really need that much charcoal? What are you planning to cook?" Baxter, without turning around, replied, "I intend to cook food for my friends and family." Maxine shot back, "Which you obviously are not cooking for me. If you're feeling rude, the trash can is right there. Maybe you can find something in it for yourself, or better yet, why don't you just leave? No more suggestions. Just go," Baxter replied sharply. "Get out of my yard." Maxine stared in shock while Megan felt embarrassed. "Have you lost your mind? That was uncalled for." Baxter calmly said, "No, I'm very much in control. If you don't leave, I will call the police. And Megan, I know you're about to speak, but remember this is my house, bought before we got married in my name," he continued. "So don't act like you can give me a hard time. I won't be insulted by someone who thinks they're better than everyone else." Then he turned to Maxine and said, "Just go. You don't belong here." Maxine had no choice but to leave, feeling both embarrassed and angry. Megan went inside, upset, as Baxter continued cooking for the guests, acting as if nothing had happened. From that day on, Maxine felt a deep resentment toward Baxter. How could he stand up to her like that? That created tension in their home. More arguments followed, and disrespect grew. Megan would insult Baxter, and he would retort, "Isn't it funny? You call me a loser, yet you married me, had kids with me, and are enjoying a drink paid for by me. How does that make you look?" Megan could only glare at him, fuming. She hated that he wouldn't back down, which made her feel foolish despite her small victories. Baxter disliked the constant fighting with someone who used to be his best friend and wife. He missed their light-hearted conversations and laughter. He missed the warmth and support she used to give him during tough times. He didn't recognize the person she had become. He longed for his friend back. With each argument, he was reminded even more that she was lost to him. As he drove home, he wondered what the next disagreement would be about. "What happened to us?" he thought. "We used to be so much more than this." He reminisced about their high school years when they first met. She was the friendly and caring cheerleader, and he was the awkward kid who loved sci-fi and fantasy books. He remembered her kindness well. Many boys noticed her for her looks, and she was undeniably beautiful, but for him, it was her kindness and compassion that made him fall for her. He remembered the time when the school bully, Titus Jones, picked on him with his friends. Titus was a big guy who claimed to be nice to everyone, but that was far from the truth, especially for the kids who felt left out. Titus loved to bully others. He would pull smaller kids' pants down in the hall, push them into lockers, or punch them just for fun. One day, he saw Baxter at the local park. Baxter was happily reading his comic book when Titus approached him and snatched it away. Other kids nearby watched, waiting for Baxter to plead for his book back. But what happened surprised everyone. Baxter was quite thin, while Titus was a big, strong teenager. Yet Baxter showed no fear. This seemed to annoy Titus, who spoke in a rude tone. "Hey, we're trying to have fun here. It stinks and you're ruining it. Get lost." His friends laughed when they heard this. Baxter looked up, first without emotion, and then with a small smile. "If you think it smells, maybe you should close your legs. There's something called soap, you know." Everyone gasped as Baxter picked up his comic and resumed reading. Furious, Titus grabbed Baxter by his shirt. "Who do you think you are? You can't talk to me like that," Baxter replied calmly. "I'm just a kid reading my book while you act tough because of your own issues. And yes, I can talk to you like that. Here's another one. Leave me alone, you bragging bully." With that, Titus hit him in the face. Baxter felt dizzy but held onto Titus's shoulders. Titus laughed. "Look at him, everyone. The funny guy isn't so funny anymore. Got any jokes for me?" His friends joined in the mocking laughter. The bystanders watched in disbelief at what was happening. Titus shook Baxter again, demanding, "Come on, make me laugh." Baxter looked him in the eyes and replied, "I don't know about funny, but maybe next time you should pay attention to your own reflection." Just then, Titus was taken aback, unable to respond. Baxter gave Titus a strong headbutt, breaking his nose. He then kicked Titus, bringing the big bully to his knees. The other kids watched in shock and amazement. Baxter looked small next to Titus, but he did what nobody else dared to do. He stood up to him, wearing glasses and a button-up shirt. Baxter didn't have time to feel proud. Titus and his friends jumped at him, hitting and kicking while he was down. Then Baxter heard a girl's voice. "If you don't leave him alone, I'll call the police," she shouted. The boys got Titus up and ran away. The girl rushed over to help Baxter. "Are you okay, Baxter?" she asked, noticing his bloody lip. He smiled and replied, "I'm fine. I had it all under control." She smiled back, impressed by this brave kid who stood up to the bully. "That was crazy what you did. You know that, right?" she said. Baxter responded, "Not as crazy as interrupting someone reading about Warhammer 40K. The girl didn't understand much of it, but she laughed anyway. "I'm Megan Miller," she introduced herself. Baxter smiled and reached out his hand. "Baxter Davis. Nice to meet you, Megan. I wish it were under better circumstances." They both laughed, and that was the start of their friendship. Megan admired his courage, and Baxter thought she was beautiful both inside and out. Over time, their friendship blossomed into love. They dated through high school, always supporting each other. Even though they went to different schools, they made time to be together. Their favorite spot was the old Polish Rose movie theater, where they watched classic comedies every other Wednesday night. As time went on, they grew closer, especially after the birth of their first child, Melissa. Baxter remembered standing with Megan as her parents yelled at her for being reckless, but he supported her through it all. Eventually, her parents began to respect him, especially when he proposed after they both graduated. Baxter took advantage of programs at his orphanage to earn his degrees, while Megan attended community college. They worked hard to maintain their home, an apartment for three, facing challenges together that only made their family stronger. By the time their youngest, Alex, was born, it felt like nothing could stand in their way. Now, as Baxter walked up the steps of his house, he wondered what had caused that once unbreakable bond to change. As he walks inside, he sees the light on in his bedroom upstairs before heading up to prepare for what's ahead. He notices a framed picture next to the TV. He picks it up and looks closely. It was their first photo as a family. He remembered how Megan wanted something real and special instead of a typical family picture. So they decided to take their kids to see the original Lion King at their favorite theater. He recalls how everyone sang along, especially Hakuna Matata. Melissa, who was 9, sang loudly with joy while he held her on his shoulders in the back row. Megan had Alex up high too, and he was singing right along. When the show ended, an older man complimented their lovely family and offered to take their picture. Megan had Alex on her shoulders, making a silly face, while Alex smiled brightly. Baxter had Melissa beside him, sticking his tongue out as Melissa playfully pulled at her eyelids. He looks at the family photo from so long ago, and he didn't notice the tears that fell on it. What happened to us, he wondered. He is brought back to reality when he hears footsteps coming down the stairs. He sees his wife in a lovely red dress, looking beautiful. "Wow, Megan, you look amazing. I didn't know we had plans. I'll be ready in 15 minutes. Megan turns to him with a serious expression. "Baxter, you don't need to get ready. I'm going out." "But it's not with you." Baxter feels his heart drop. He takes a breath before he asks, "I'm sorry. Did you just say you're going on a date with someone else?" A look of determination crosses her face. "I knew you wouldn't like this. Maxine told me you would react this way. You really need her advice to see this is a bad idea? What's gotten into you, Megan? Ever since you met her, you've changed completely. You went to that retreat to find yourself, but now you seem to be doing the opposite. You show me no respect even after all I've done for you. And now you come up with this unexpected news. What do you want me to say?" Megan stands firm and replies, "Be the supportive husband you claim to be. Be here when I get back, and then we can talk about our marriage. You've been in my way ever since I returned from my retreat. You even embarrassed me in front of my friends. Yes, Baxter, I'm going out, and I'm doing this for us. Things have been distant between us, and don't brush this off, Megan." Baxter was not someone who accepted everything without question. He was upset, and he knew his wife was influenced by her friend, who was often self-centered. He felt frustrated and said, "Don't claim this is for us." He stood in front of his wife, holding back his anger, taking deep breaths before continuing. "Imagine if I dressed up in a tuxedo and told you that I was going on a date. How would that make you feel?" Megan's face filled with anger. "Don't even think about it. I would make you regret it." She suddenly became aware of how harsh her words were and felt some guilt, but she pushed it away. Baxter replied, "I'm not going to argue with you about this. I don't know who you are anymore. The moment you walk out that door, don't come back." Megan couldn't believe what he said. "You can't mean that." Just then, there was a knock, and Megan opened the door. Maxine stood there in a fancy dress with another man who looked very strong. "Are you ready for a wonderful night?" she asked, noticing Baxter's intense stare. Normally she would feel scared, but tonight she felt secure. She greeted him. "Oh, it's you, the incompetent one." Baxter shot back, "I would say it's nice to see you, but that would be a lie." Maxine felt the sting of his words, but knew he was clever and confident. Her companion stepped forward and cracked his knuckles, saying, "I'm a boxer and very strong. I think it's time you apologize to her." Baxter gave him an unreadable look before responding, "Wow, you can lift a lot, but I have a question for you." The man was puzzled as they were quite far apart. "What is it?" he asked, sounding defensive. Baxter said, "Do you think you could lift something weighing about the same as a bullet?" Confused, the man didn't understand. Without warning, Baxter revealed a weapon he had kept hidden, pointing it toward the man. "Listen, I'm sorry," the man said quickly. "I'm just her ride, that's all." Please don't shoot." Both women looked at Baxter, shocked and scared, as the man hurried away to his waiting car. Baxter put down the weapon and took a deep breath. Megan. He realized how close things had come to a terrible moment. "I love you very much, but I can't let anyone disrespect me like this. If you walk out that door with her, our marriage will end." Megan looked at Baxter, then at Maxine. "We can talk more about this tomorrow, dear. Good night." With that, she and Maxine got into the car, and he watched as they drove away. Baxter felt stunned and lost for words. He just stared at the photo he had seen earlier and then broke down. It finally happened. No matter how hard he tried or how much love he had given, his marriage was over. As he looked at the family photo, tears streamed down his face. He cried for the love and friendship he had lost. He cried for his children and realized how life would be different now. He mourned the family he had cared for so deeply. Looking up, he saw his kids, Melissa and Alex, standing together by their bed. "Why are you crying?" his son Alex asked, his voice full of innocence. "Oh, I'm sorry, little man. Dad is just dealing with some hard things. I didn't mean to wake you. Dad, what's wrong? Why did Mom leave with those people?" Baxter paused. He knew how bright his kids were. They were his. He didn't want to lie, but he dreaded the conversation. "Your mom and I will not be living together for a while. Before you say anything, this is not your fault. This is between us." Both kids hugged their father tightly, sensing the weight of the moment. "Dad, does this mean you and Mom are getting a divorce?" Baxter sadly nodded at his daughter. "Yes, sweetie, it does. But no matter what happens between me and your mom, we both love you very much and will always be there for you." Tears fell from their cheeks as Alex asked, "But why can't you and Mommy be together anymore? Don't you and Mommy love each other?" Baxter wiped the tears from his son's face, letting his own fall, too. "I do love your mother very much. And even with what has happened, I think she loves me too. But love isn't always enough to keep a family together. You need respect, loyalty, care, and kindness too. Love is strong, but without those things, it can just be a word without meaning. Do you both understand?" They nodded and hugged their father again. "All right now, I need you kids to get back in bed." After tucking them in, Baxter started to make a plan. He called a locksmith to change the locks on the house. Once that was done, he went online and took out half of the money in their joint account, leaving her with $8,000. He then canceled their credit cards, ensuring that the only money she could use was her own. When everything was finished, he went to bed, and the next morning, Megan stepped out of the Bentley, her hair messy from the night before. A sly smile appeared on Maxine's face. "Didn't I tell you it would be a life-changing experience?" Megan couldn't argue with her friend. Maxine was in her 30s but looked like a model in her 20s. Megan felt like a carefree student who had just defied her parents. She felt vibrant and alive. The excitement of what she had done was overwhelming and far beyond anything she had imagined. It was more than I ever thought it could be. My stubborn husband will have to adjust to this change. If he's lucky, he might get a second chance with me. That will teach him for being difficult. You show him who's in charge, darling. I'll see you next week for our next get-together. Let me know when you wake up. Okay, talk to you later. As the car drove off, she headed to the door. When she tried to unlock it, however, the key wouldn't work. What's wrong with this thing? For the next few minutes, she struggled to open the door but had no luck. "Baxter, did you really change the locks?" "I sure did." She nearly jumped when she heard his voice behind her. When she stepped inside, she saw that all her clothes had been packed up. Before she could ask Baxter anything, he spoke. "Your clothes and other things are at the storage place downtown. I just came back from there. You should also know I put up a restraining order because of your friend from yesterday, since you did nothing to protect me. So unless you're picking up your things, I don't want you here. I'll have the divorce papers ready soon." Megan was shocked. He had made his choice. She thought he might see her side and let things go, but this was surprising. "You really want to end over 10 years of marriage over one night out? Nice move, I guess." Megan felt her face flush from embarrassment. The mark he pointed out was not on her neck, but she noticed his expression was as hard as stone, showing no feelings. "You're going to regret this. You're making a big mistake. I will fight you in court." Baxter walked into the kitchen, adding, "By the way, this place has cameras. If you damage anything, it will be used against you." and with that, he closed the door. Megan could only yell in frustration and anger. That person always seems to be one step ahead of me. I'll make them pay for this. She then made a tough call to Maxine, asking if she could stay with her. Maxine agreed, of course. She packed her things into her car and drove away, showing a gesture of frustration. Baxter just sipped his orange juice, feeling numb to everything happening. He had asked his adoptive father, Bear, to watch the kids last night. He was thankful for that so they wouldn't have to see this. He also decided to find a good divorce lawyer for himself. Luckily, one was open late that night. After finishing his juice, he thought it was time to visit Bear and the kids. They were likely confused by everything and missed their dad. It would also be nice to see Bear again in the place where he grew up. As he drove to the orphanage that once felt like home, he thought about the man who had been like a father to him and so many others. He looked back and felt grateful that he didn't become just another statistic, thanks to Bear and others who supported him. The kids often visited him ever since they were born. They would sometimes call him Grandpa. Bear never mentioned it, but he had tears in his eyes the first time they did. He loved them instantly. One could say he is like a grandfather to thousands, having helped many of their parents when they were kids. So much could have happened, Baxter thought as he continued driving to see Bear and the kids. Memories from his past played in his mind. He remembered that his biological parents struggled with addiction and crime. Tragically, they faced a dire situation just weeks after he was born. They were desperate for money for drugs. When they tried to rob a gas station, they did not expect what would happen. Baxter's mother threatened the store owner's daughter, not realizing that the owner was skilled in protecting himself. In the chaos that followed, the young girl who was helping her parents broke down in tears. The mother kept her daughter close while her husband checked the scene to ensure it was safe. Just then, they heard a baby crying from a car parked outside. It was hot that day, so he took the baby out of the car to protect them. Police quickly arrived after the investigations. They discovered that a couple had been committing crimes for several years. Starting in Los Angeles, California, and ending in Austin, Texas, they had robbed banks, drug dealers, pharmacies, and convenience stores, all while raising a baby. Baxter was taken into state care and grew up in an orphanage called Saints' Tears. Unlike many other places, this orphanage had a strong reputation for having excellent teachers, counselors, and caregivers. Its headmaster was a well-known figure named Bernard Bayer Goldberg. He was a biracial man of black and Jewish heritage. Bernard was a large man, strong and tall at 6 feet 1 inch. He had a troubled past and had once led a street gang. Known for his smart thinking, he sometimes resorted to violence if necessary. He only targeted other gangs or drug dealers. Though he had Jewish roots, his gang included people from different backgrounds. They had a fearsome reputation in the criminal world. One night, while trying to rob another gang, Bernard was betrayed by one of his trusted members who made a deal with their rivals. He fought back, but 2 men lost their lives during the chaos. Although Bernard thought he could escape, he was soon ambushed and shot. When he woke up, he found himself handcuffed to a hospital bed. He learned that his entire crew was gone, their bodies discovered all around the city, including that of the traitor. He cried that night, feeling the pain of losing not just friends but family. He received a 30-year sentence for his actions. The first 5 years were filled with violence as he often got into fights with other inmates and staff, mainly in self-defense. However, it was during his time in solitary that he began to change. In his solitude, he received books from an older inmate. He read many important texts, including the Bible, classic novels, and various books about law. It was during this time that he reflected on his life. He realized that he had used his past as an excuse to harm others. He gained a lot of knowledge but felt regret for not making better choices earlier in life. He wondered how many lives he could have positively influenced if he had chosen a different path. From that moment on, he decided to change his life for the better. Understanding that his previous actions only caused destruction, he wanted to help the community he had once hurt. While in prison, he earned his GED and also completed his bachelor's and master's degrees. Once in prison, he started helping other inmates, even those he once saw as enemies. His kindness and skills grew so much that women from nearby prisons asked him to speak at their support groups. He became a social worker in the prisons around him. He would talk to new inmates about their choices and what could happen if they kept making the same mistakes. He helped those serving long sentences come to terms with their lives while still reminding them they were human. He also spoke with people who had gone through difficult experiences, providing comfort and support to everyone, no matter their background. He reassured them that their past was not their fault and encouraged them not to let it define them. His real test came during a chaotic event in the prison. Everything unfolded so quickly, and he couldn't stop it. There was silence all around. A young man had died under troubling circumstances. Later, another inmate named Charles Stevenson was preparing to leave prison as new evidence in his case was looking promising. From the moment he arrived, he faced tough treatment from the guards because they found out he had been close to one of them. Clarence Jenkins's youngest sister, Amanda Jenkins, had cared for Charles. Although he was a white male, he had been raised by a black family after losing his parents in an accident. Amanda was also white and came from a wealthy family known in the community. There was no malice in their relationship, just genuine love. They met in high school, but Charles was wrongly accused of a crime at a store. Witnesses mistakenly identified him as the robber, but he was actually with Amanda after their prom. At just 18, Clarence had known about their relationship and manipulated a local drunk to frame Charles. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Other inmates saw that he didn't belong there and advised him to keep to himself, avoid trouble, and not betray anyone. Life in prison was different, and he needed to stay strong and prepared to defend himself if necessary. Charles, with time, began to adjust to his situation. Other inmates, including Bear, helped teach him how to stand up for himself inside and outside the law. For the most part, the guards did not have problems with him. Many thought he didn't fit in because he was polite and reminded them of their own sons in high school. However, a few guards did not like that he seemed to be managing well, especially Clarence Jenkins. He always disliked that Charles was with his sister. He thought of him as someone from a rough background, raised without care. One day, Charles found out that Amanda had gone to the hospital to have their baby. He asked the warden to let him go. The warden knew about the situation and had heard from other inmates and staff that Charles was a decent guy, so he allowed Charles to see the birth of his child. With the prison's permission, he was given time off to witness his child's arrival. He thanked the other inmates who had supported him, especially Bear, who had been with him since the beginning. To many in the prison, Charles had become like a younger brother or son. Bear was present as Amanda welcomed their son, Alex J., into the world. At that moment, he proposed to Amanda, and with approval from the state and some help from Charles's parents, they got married in the hospital room with the chaplain and nurses present. When he returned to prison, Charles proudly shared that he was now a husband and a father. Everyone, both staff and inmates, celebrated with him. Everyone except Clarence. This was the final blow for him. He organized a surprise cell search, hoping to find something wrong. Despite his efforts, all he found was a family photo of his sister Kim and the baby. The photo had a special frame, navy blue with carved stars and a moon, and it said family on it. This hit him hard since the baby was born late at night. Clarence looked at the photo with disgust. He couldn't believe his sister had made a family with someone he considered unworthy. Charles, however, was not going to be intimidated. He rarely caused problems in prison, but this felt personal. He clenched his fists. One inmate noticed Charles's anger and tried to calm him down. "Don't let him get to you. He's upset because you're almost free. Stay cool," he said. But Charles was young and emotional. Clarence tried again, taunting him about his sister. "Was my sister good to you? Did you even support her? Is that kid really yours?" Before Clarence could say more, Charles lost his temper and threw a punch. He landed several hits before guards pulled him away. Clarence smiled, knowing this would mean more trouble for Charles, leading to more time in prison. Soon after, Charles was sentenced to transfer to another facility. Amanda was heartbroken. A few weeks after he was moved, Amanda received a call one evening. She had just tucked her son into bed. Earlier that day, she and Charles had discussed where they would move after he finished his 3 years. Despite the situation, they were determined to keep their family together. She remembered how Charles had said he loved her, and how she had told him the same. She wished to be with him and have another child. Thinking of his warm smile brought her comfort. Suddenly, she snapped back to reality and answered the phone. "Hello, who is this?" The voice on the other end delivered terrible news, causing her to collapse in shock. She was too stunned to cry or speak as tears streamed down her face. Charles's parents were there, and his mother comforted Amanda while his father took the phone. After hanging up, he placed his hand on his wife's shoulder and broke the sad news. Their son was gone. That was when Amanda and the family cried together. Charles had been found in his cell and labeled a suicide. Everyone who knew him believed that was not true. They all knew who was responsible, but no one could publicly prove it. Clarence acted as if he had no idea what had happened. Those who were aware of the issues between him and Charles knew the truth. Some guards left their positions to avoid working with Clarence, while others simply didn't care or were unaware of the situation. The other inmates, however, had not forgotten and sought revenge. On the morning of Charles's funeral, the inmates ate breakfast quietly, in silence. The atmosphere was tense, and the guards felt uneasy as they watched. It was during the return from breakfast that a fight broke out between two inmates. When the guards rushed to intervene, they were met with aggression from the other inmates. Taking a key from one of the guards, the inmates accessed a control room that managed part of the prison. Soon, the entire area was in chaos, with guards and inmates trapped inside, including Clarence. He was beaten severely for what he had done to Charles, suffering serious injuries. Other staff members, including a young woman who had just begun working there, were also caught in the turmoil. She witnessed the violence and feared for her life. As all of this unfolded, a voice spoke up. "This isn't the way. This isn't what he would have wanted. I'm not going to accept the excuse that you did this because of tough times. I miss that kid too. What they did to him is beyond wrong. But we can't dishonor his memory like this. We can't." The people in charge looked around, and he knew he was right. They respected Bear and what he stood for. Many of them had reconnected with their families because of him. Some were even returning home because of him. But what mattered was that he was right. They wanted to get back at Clarence and the other guards, but nothing would bring Charles back. One of the leaders spoke up. "We respect you. You've always been good to everyone, but this person needs to answer for what he did." Clarence laughed, though it hurt. "Good luck with that. With how I look, you're wasting your time. People like you will never see the light of day after I'm done. That kid deserved what he got. He needed to be taught a lesson." A man prepared to attack him, but Bear shouted, "Wait!" He looked at one of the leaders, who gave him the go-ahead. Bear approached the guard, who spit blood at him. "What do you have to say for yourself?" "Sorry," he managed to say, but the words fell away when he saw something in Bear's hand. His face lost color. He knew what it was, a sign of hidden truths. He realized Bear understood exactly what it meant. It was proof of all the wrong things he had done. Bear had evidence that showed the guards' misdeeds, pictures and videos of inappropriate behavior and bad activities he had been involved in. If it got out, it would ruin him. Simply being killed would be a quick end compared to what could happen to him now. Bear spoke firmly. "That file you hid your secrets in is safe with me now. But those secrets will come out. I could end you right now. Everyone here would probably feel the same way, but that would be too good for you. When the news leaks, no one will cover for you anymore. They'll be looking out for themselves. Soon, that badge you used to act like you were in control will be gone, and you will wear the same clothes that the rest of us do. Do you understand? You will be what you despise. And when that cell door shuts behind you and you realize your life is falling apart, think about what will happen to you in there. You will face the consequences of your actions, not just for what you did to Charles, but for everyone affected by your harmful choices. Think about that as you wait for what's coming in your new home. You poor excuse for a person." Clarence was scared as he whispered to him, and everyone in the room laughed. They watched Bear as he moved away. Bear then went to speak with the leaders in a separate room, sharing what he told Clarence. They all agreed that it was best to put an end to the chaos. An hour later, the hostages were released after the state police intervened. When everything was over, Clarence was found guilty of his actions, which were widely reported by the news. The accusations were shocking, and the evidence was compelling, reminding everyone of past scandals and corruption. Clarence was one of many tangled in this web of deceit and was sentenced to 20 years for his crimes, but he only served 3 years before he was found dead in the shower. Bear was praised as a hero for saving lives. As a result, the governor pardoned him after he completed 20 years. Soon after, he connected with community leaders who had supported him over the years, along with government officials and others in influential positions. They all wanted to give the next generation a chance at a better life, something many of them never had. They raised enough money to renovate an old school that had closed in the 1980s. Not only did they refurbish the school, but they also created an entire campus for children in need, staffed with caring individuals trained to support kids of all ages. The staff came from diverse backgrounds, including teachers from private schools, people who had turned their lives around, former police officers, military veterans, and artists of all kinds. All adults could play a positive role in a child's life. Baxter remembered the man who had been like a father to him and many others. He could see the campus being built. It still had a beautiful and peaceful feel, even after all these years. As he stepped onto the grounds, he saw the guard station at the entrance. Security was organized into 3 groups. First was the General Assistant Security, who helped visitors and provided directions. They wore light blue polo shirts and casual pants. Next was the General Security, responsible for keeping order and escorting individuals around. They wore gray polo shirts and black pants. Lastly, there was the Armed Security, who were well-trained in handling situations as needed. They were seen as a last option if there was a serious threat or a disturbance. Their equipment included a Glock 19 and an AR-15. There were more than 100 security officers from different departments looking after the campus. He passed by the staff apartments and places where they rested. He thought about all the people who lived there, the caregivers for this generation of children, who guided them and taught them a sense of worth that they hadn't thought they deserved. He then noticed the dorm building for the kids, with different sections for each age group. This was the section for children, from infants up to 18 years old. He remembered when he used to call this place home. He recalled the sad stories he had heard about foster care, where many children faced neglect and hardship. He thought of those who cared for him and so many others. Eventually, he reached the main building, the learning center where children played and went to school. Many kids would be adopted, but most would not. The staff at the school understood this, which is why they tried to find people who would truly love and support the children. This school helped produce many doctors, lawyers, scientists, law enforcement officers, skilled workers, business owners, and stars because of their dedication to these kids. Some kids came from very tough backgrounds. Others had young parents who weren't ready for that responsibility. There were fathers who wanted their children, even if the mothers had given them up without telling the fathers. They worked hard to connect these fathers with their children, while also ensuring that the mothers took responsibility for their choices. This school was built on a foundation of merit, and Baxter was proud to have grown up there. He felt grateful for all the parents who loved and cared for him, teaching him so much. As he walked through the familiar halls, he heard the person he came to see and made his way to the nearby gym. Bear stood in the center of the gym, speaking to a group of teenagers about his journey and the importance of leading by example. I see all of you here. Many of you have come from difficult homes. Some were even asked to leave by parents who couldn't cope with the situation. Some of you have faced challenges that no child should endure. But despite the pain you have experienced, it's important not to let that pain determine who you are. Each of you has been here for 7 months to a little over a year, and you have made significant progress. You have shown the world that you are more than just a number or a statistic. You are not just children without a home. You are the future. Do you know who I was before this? Before I became who I am today? The life I lived was not respectable, even though some artists may say otherwise. It was a life filled with pain. I attended the funerals of friends and family. I faced dangerous situations and spent 20 years in prison while life moved on without me. When I got out, I didn't even know what texting was. At first there was talking and some laughter, but then I felt guilty for laughing, considering my past. Bear just smiled at them. It's okay to laugh now, but I want you to understand the little things we take for granted. Our emotions can lead us into tough situations, making us lose our freedom. I also want you to know that the way I lived is not the answer. Sure, I had money. People feared my name. I had some respect, but it was really fear. That fear brought hate and jealousy, costing me friends as they lost their lives one after another. Can you imagine seeing your best friend in a casket while you are locked up, and the only ones there are the preacher, the person digging the grave, and the guards watching you? There was a solemn moment. Don't look up to a life that brings destruction. Honor what can build you up. Be better than I was. Strive for something more. And know this. I am proud of all of you, now and in the future. Bear smiled at their faces, seeing them smile back. He then noticed Baxter at the doorway. All right, you guys, back to school. You still have 3 hours left. The teens gathered their things, some hugging Bear before heading to their studies. Baxter waited until they were all gone before hugging his father figure from long ago. Tears fell as he embraced Bear, the man who had been like a father to him. Bear guided many young people, even walking some down the aisle on their wedding days because they didn't have a father to do it. Many young men looked up to him for advice and support. He was there for them all, and he would always be there for Baxter. I'm so sorry, Bear. Baxter poured out the feelings he had kept inside. I can finally let them go. Why, Bear? Why would she do this to me? To us and the kids? Things seemed perfect a year ago, and now she has changed so much. She was more than my wife. She was my best friend. The woman I loved dearly has become a stranger, and it hurts. Bear held him tightly, allowing him to cry. After a few minutes, they spoke again. Baxter, I'm sorry you're going through this. What matters now is what you choose to do despite it. What Megan did to you is not just wrong, but also very unkind, and you cannot let it slide. You are not just fighting for yourself, but for your children. She will try to hurt you by going after them. Speaking of the kids, they are now at our childcare center on campus, safe and secure if the court agrees. As you asked, Megan needs a court order to come on campus to see them if they are not with you. In the meantime, tell me more about her friend. Baxter shared everything he knew about Maxine, including how her lack of closeness with others led to disrespect and even conflicts. Bear then asked Baxter if he thought he could save his marriage. Baxter looked at him sincerely. Not just no, but definitely no. This marriage has been over for a long time. I just didn't want to see it. Bear, look at me. I have someone who can help you with this. He has experience with these kinds of problems. He even helped a physical education teacher who found his wife with someone else during a storm. It was a wild story, but that's for another time. Believe it or not, this guy has helped a lot of people who were struggling. Baxter was curious. Well, tell me who it is. In a different scene, a woman was sitting at a desk with her partner. They were sharing an intimate moment, enjoying their connection with each other. As they finished, they exchanged joyful words, surprised by the shared experience. My dear husband Robin smiled as they shared a kiss after their time together. Andy smiled back. It's not every day I start our new investigation business in such an enjoyable way, and I couldn't think of anyone else I'd rather share this with. You're not upset, are you? A smile appeared on her face. After everything we've faced over the past 2 years, how could I complain? It has been 2 years since they came together through a series of challenging events. David had been cheated on by his wife while uncovering a serious problem that affected many people. There were those who had been taken advantage of, and the thought of harm was too much to bear. Robin had nearly lost her life while working on a case. She learned that those responsible for her parents' deaths had faced justice. And through all the chaos, Andy and Robin found love in each other. She helped him find his stolen children and made his unkind ex-wife face the consequences by sending her to prison for 20 years. The children, Claire, age 12, and Robert, age 9, were cautious at first. They loved their father and appreciated the woman who helped him bring them back. However, they were worried about being taken away from him again, as they had experienced painful separation before. They didn't want their hearts to break once more. Over time, they realized they were safe and began to rebuild a lost connection with their father, as well as a new bond with Robin. While Robin was one of the best Texas Rangers, she also had a warm and loving heart for the children. As time went on, they started to call her Mom, as if they had never known a caring mother. Their real mother had only brought them pain by hurting their father. Robin could not help but cry when they called her that. She loved them as if they were her own from that moment. When she and Andy told the kids they would be getting a little brother, they were thrilled. Months later, little Jack Robbins was born. The older siblings promised to protect their new brother no matter what. Andy and Robin felt incredibly lucky to have such a loving family despite the difficulties they had faced. After everything that happened, Andy wanted to make a difference. He had seen how hurtful and selfish actions could affect someone, especially when children were involved, and he didn't want anyone else to suffer like he did. He shared his idea with Robin and decided to take out a business loan to start his own private investigation company. He was already a family court lawyer, but wanted to do more to help people who were in difficult situations. He wanted the best people and tools to support their clients. He hired a former Alaskan state trooper named Todd McFarlane as his field agent, along with 3 secretaries, Shannon, Rebecca, and Jenna. These 3 young women were survivors of a terrible situation, but with Andy's support, they had started to heal from their past. Despite their experiences, they showed they were strong enough to move forward in their lives. They wanted to repay Andy for his help, and he was happy to support them. Andy and Robin became like parental figures to the girls who looked up to them. Each of the girls would work different shifts, whether morning, evening, or late night, managing files and keeping things organized. They made sure the building was secure and would contact Andy if anything needed attention. Building the company took time, effort, and money, but they were all committed. It was often hard work, but in the end, it felt rewarding. The building was an old firehouse that measured 4,000 square feet and had 3 stories. They renovated it and updated it for their new purpose. Once the construction was completed, everyone celebrated. The party had just ended when Robin finished her work and wanted to see her husband before heading home to celebrate together. Starting a new venture is something a loving couple does. They cared for each other deeply and always supported one another. As Robin got ready to leave, she smiled while talking to Andy. "You know I can't lie. Being married to you has its perks. No matter how tough my day gets, I have you to help me through it. I know you will always be there for me, just as I will be for you. Plus, having some special time together after a long day of reports and bad coffee is a nice bonus, too." Andy laughed. "Oh, so I'm just a tool to you then?" They both smiled before Robin replied, "You belong to me as much as I belong to you, my love." They kissed, and then Andy's phone buzzed. "Hello, Bear. Hey, good to hear from you. Thanks again for the wedding catering. I know it's been over a year, but the food was amazing. Yes, send him tomorrow morning. Consider it done." Robin listened closely. "First client," Baxter replied. "It's someone he knows. He thinks his wife is being unfaithful and wants a divorce. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow at 8 in the morning." Robin paused. "But why not meet him now? It's only 8 at night." Andy leaned over and gave her a kiss. "Because while I want to help people, I also want to show how much I care for my wife by spending more time with you at home." Robin smiled, teasingly pulling away. "You mischievous man." "Yes, but I'm your mischievous man." The loving couple then went home to spend more time with each other. The next morning, Baxter prepared for his appointment. It felt odd being at the campus again, but he needed someone to look after the kids while he went out. Bear was more than happy to help. They were like grandkids to him. They even called him Pop Pop, or Old Man, as a sign of respect and love. As Baxter got ready, he made a list of what he needed to say and ask. He never thought he would find himself in this situation. Before leaving, he went to the kids' room and gently kissed their sleeping heads. He knew this would be hard for them, but he promised to do everything to protect them. He drove to the address Bear provided and arrived in just 20 minutes. He was surprised by how the building looked. The sign showed a caped robin with a mask over its eyes. The words, "Robin's Family Council and Private Investigations," were displayed prominently. Wasn't this a firehouse? At one point, he thought to himself, the building looked impressive. The outside appeared new, even with its long history. A strong concrete wall had replaced the old bricks, and there were fire doors. Now there was a large door on the side instead of the middle. Inside, it was like a modern office with shiny wood floors and carpeted hallways. Baxter took the elevator to the 3rd floor. When he got off, a young woman greeted him. She seemed no older than 20 and had a friendly smile. "Hello, Mr. Davis. My name is Shannon. Mr. Robbins is expecting you." "Just a moment while I let him know you are here," she said, making a quick call. After finishing, she smiled at Baxter. "Mr. Robbins will see you now." As Baxter stepped into the office, he was welcomed with a handshake and a warm hug. This made Baxter feel a bit better because he was in need of support. "Mr. Davis, Bear told me about your situation. I'm sorry to meet you like this. Please sit down. Can you share what happened and why we are here today?" Baxter did share everything he had been through over the past years. He talked about the change in his wife's behavior, the disrespect, and a recent argument when he lost his temper in front of someone. He explained how all of this was affecting him and their children. Mr. Robbins listened carefully. "I'm going to be honest with you, Baxter. You might not like what I say, but I want you to know that I'm here to help you. Based on what you've told me, it sounds like your wife has been influenced a lot by this friend of hers." He added, "I'm not making excuses for her behavior. She is an adult, not a child. Do you remember when things changed in your relationship?" Baxter thought for a moment. "Yeah, I'd say about a year or two ago. At first, she would make excuses, like having a headache. Then she started to seem angry when I asked her what was wrong. It got to a point where I had to seriously talk about divorce, just for her to admit she was stressed at work. Things seemed to improve a bit, but only for a while. She began coming home late and not paying attention to the kids, especially our son." Mr. Robbins continued, "From what you were telling me, it seems like she might have been seeing someone else for a while." Baxter nodded slowly. "Has she tried to discuss her feelings with you?" Baxter shook his head. "No. It would be easier to ask her to pull her own teeth out than to get her to talk about it. I just don't understand what is making her feel this way. Sure, I'm good with my words, and usually a clever comeback would stop someone right away. But I still didn't understand what was happening with my wife. It's surprising that she still lives in the house. It feels more like a storage space for her things than a home. She hardly spends time with the kids anymore. It's as if they are a burden to her, like we all are." A tear rolled down Baxter's cheek. "We could find proof of her cheating if it's there, but that would cost money. I won't lie. We also need a considerable amount of evidence. The court often delays divorce cases when it involves cheating. Plus, you have kids. Courts often adjust their judgments in favor of mothers, even in cheating situations. However, this is a state where fault matters, and cheating can be a deciding factor. This can affect alimony and support payments. If her friend played a role in your wife's change of behavior, we could hold them responsible. Are you ready to move forward? Is this what you want?" Baxter paused to think. Is my marriage really over? Can it be saved? The more he asked himself these questions, the clearer the answer became. My marriage has been over for a long time. It's time to make a change, and I need to protect my kids. Andy nodded. All right. We will start by having you sign the paperwork so we can help you. It will also let us look at your phones, property files, or anything else that could help our investigation. We will set up cameras in your home and vehicles. Actually, both are in my name. Even better, Andy said with a smile. We will also have someone follow her and keep you updated. Any questions? Baxter shook his head. No, good. Now, about the incident when you mentioned self-defense. A judge will support your claim if there's a good reason. Do you have proof? Yes. A few months ago, someone was taking my packages, so I installed 2 cameras, one at the front door and one in the living room. The front camera couldn't catch everything. I went to the police and showed them the video. They supported my actions and asked if I wanted to press charges, but I declined. So that situation is settled. Andy nodded with approval. Good. This helps us avoid surprises. Now we can get started. Andy stood up, shook Baxter's hand, and gave him a brief hug. You're going to be okay, Baxter. No matter what happens, I'll be with you every step of the way. For the first time in what felt like ages, Baxter felt hope instead of despair. Meanwhile, Megan had just left the hotel suite, feeling emotions she hadn't experienced in years. Her legs still felt shaky from the enjoyable time she had with Maxine and her friend. She thought about how childish Baxter was. He couldn't see how this could help both of them. She knew she wasn't his property. His pride always seemed hurt whenever she tried to explain things to him. He always had a smart comment that she couldn't respond to. As she thought more, she remembered how it all started with Maxine. Her marriage had its normal ups and downs. They loved each other, but she wanted more than what they had. She met Maxine by chance at a diner where she often had lunch. During her breaks, Maxine would connect with her, sharing stories about her life as a CEO in a tough industry and how she outsmarted powerful men. Maxine talked about how she took charge and impressed people. There was something captivating about Maxine. She could easily get attention and respect. Megan enjoyed hearing Maxine talk about her life and adventures. Over time, Megan spent more time with Maxine than with her own family, and they eventually started a romantic relationship. At first, Megan felt shocked and guilty, but Maxine helped her see that her feelings of guilt were shaped by society. Maxine argued that those feelings held women back from becoming the strong individuals they could be. She described marriage as a way to control women, making them feel trapped. As Megan spent more time with Maxine, she began to feel more unsure about her marriage, and the relationship with Maxine grew deeper. Soon it wasn't just Maxine who she shared herself with, as others joined in the intimacy. With each new connection, she felt a sense of pride, and her frustration with Baxter grew. Eventually, she stopped being intimate with him altogether. Maxine advised her to save her affection for those who truly appreciated her. When Baxter threatened to divorce her, she became so angry that she turned to one of her lovers, then returned home and was intimate with Baxter. He had no idea that she had just been with someone else. She and Maxine would laugh about it, especially when Baxter struggled to handle her teasing. But she had a plan to take control. She envisioned a future where Baxter did what she wanted. She wanted him to be her obedient partner, even if he didn't realize it yet. She thought to herself, "You will see. You are just a pawn in my game." Meanwhile, Baxter brought his kids home. They went into the living room and watched a movie they never had the chance to see before. One thing Baxter loved about his kids was their taste in films. He enjoyed fantasy adventures, and they seemed to share that interest. They watched Willow, The Never-Ending Story, and other classics from Baxter's childhood. While he was watching, his daughter noticed tears in his eyes. "Dad, are you okay?" Baxter was a bit surprised. "I'm fine, sweetie, just had a rough few days." "Is it all because of Mom?" His daughter was very perceptive. "Dad, Alex and I aren't clueless. We hear and see you and Mom arguing when you think we aren't looking. We haven't seen her around much lately, so please tell us what's going on. We have a right to know." Baxter sighed. "You're right, sweetie. I'm sorry. Your mother and I have been having problems. If things don't get better, we might separate. But no matter what happens with your mother and me, I will always be here for you. You two are my whole world, and I love you. I will do everything I can to keep you safe. Do you understand?" Alex nodded with popcorn still in his mouth, and Melissa did the same. Despite the situation, they knew that this moment was coming. It hurt them, of course. Melissa said, "We love you too, Dad. Just promise not to forget about us like Mom has." The kids hugged him, and he let a tear fall. He couldn't understand why, after all these years together, Megan would choose to walk away from the family. Suddenly, the door opened, and Megan walked in. She looked a bit disheveled. Her dress was wrinkled, and her hair was a bit messy. "Hey, my babies, how are you? What are you watching?" The kids looked at their mother but didn't respond. Then Baxter said, "Kids, why don't you go to your rooms? Your mom and I need to talk." Without a word, they went upstairs. Megan looked upset that the kids didn't acknowledge her but listened to their father. Once the kids were gone, Baxter faced Megan, a serious expression on his face that she had never seen before. "What are you doing here, Megan?" Her eyes widened at the tone in his voice, a feeling of fear creeping in but quickly replaced by a sense of determination. "The last I checked, this is my home," she replied. Baxter knew it was legally his since he had bought it before they were married. He understood where this conversation was leading but stayed calm. "Things are going to change, Baxter. You know I've been seeing other people, including the one you threatened the other night. I haven't been happy for a long time. Neither have you. You could have talked to me about it." Megan felt her face get hot. Why did Baxter always have to say things like that? It was like he just couldn't help himself. "If you hadn't been so harsh with me these past 2 years, maybe things would be better. he said. Megan took a deep breath before responding. Baxter, you need to understand that I'm doing this for us. Every moment we spend together just turns into a fight. I dread coming home. I hate feeling this way. She tried to confront him, but the tension was thick in the room. In frustration, Megan threw a vase. It narrowly missed Baxter, who didn't flinch. Is that all you have? You're out of control if you think I'll accept being treated like this. This isn't going to work out for you. What if I refuse? Megan smirked. Then I will take you to court. You have no evidence, just your word. I could easily bring people in to back me up. You'd end up lying just to avoid the truth. Megan's smile was sharp. It's time you understood your place. Baxter felt a wave of sadness as he realized the woman he once loved was changing before his eyes. What happened to you, Megan? Who filled your head with these ideas? Maxine Gullett, she said after a pause. She introduced me to this new life, and I'm going to enjoy myself no matter what you think. Baxter's expression darkened. I don't want any of your friends coming here while our kids are home? Megan scoffed at his warning. You can't stop me. He stepped closer, concern filling his eyes. Listen carefully. I won't accept this kind of behavior under my roof. Do you understand? Megan took a step back, fear creeping in. He continued, I think it's best if you leave. I can't stand looking at you right now. With that, she turned the doorknob and left without another word. This is not finished, Baxter. As he watched Megan walk away, he took a deep breath. Inside, he was crushed by everything that had happened. He couldn't understand what had happened to his friend, his wife, his love. It felt truly over, and it hurt him deeply. Then he realized it was time to take action. He knew their conversation was being recorded, which is why he never threatened her or anyone else involved. He got her to admit that Maxine had influenced her decisions. She was on a path that engaged her in behaviors he couldn't accept. He decided to use that information to his advantage. Baxter would not change the locks on the doors. He knew Megan would bring her partners home out of spite, and instead of getting angry, he would use it to his advantage in court against her and anyone else she may involve in their home. He had faced bullies all his life, and even though it broke his heart, he saw Megan as one of them. Bullies have big egos, and he planned to take advantage of that. He called Andy to explain the situation. Andy said he would send someone over in 30 minutes and told Baxter to take the kids out for a bit to let the house get ready for recording. He also asked Baxter to send him what he recorded. Baxter followed his advice. He took his kids out for a late-night adventure. They went to see a movie they wanted to watch. After that, they stopped by a diner. On the way home, he received a text from Andy with a thumbs up, letting him know the house was prepared. When he got home, he tucked the kids into bed and then went to bed himself. As he lay there, he thought about all the changes ahead. He wished things could be different, but he knew they wouldn't be. Soon, sleep overcame him, and he accepted that this was his new reality. Weeks went by, and Baxter started to heal, or at least come to terms with the fact that he was no longer married to Megan. He just hadn't finished the legal steps yet. He eventually moved to the basement. When Megan asked why, he explained that he didn't want to share a bed with someone who had chosen not to be his partner. She rolled her eyes and moved on. She thought she could bring her partners over without him knowing. She wouldn't dare have them there while he was home. Megan understood his work schedule and knew when she could have her fun. Over time, the children began to lose respect for their mother. They were young, but they understood enough to see what she was doing. She would drop them off at school, go to work, and then invite one of her partners to the house during her breaks. These visits always ended before Baxter got home from work. But he knew exactly what she was doing, even if he didn't know all the details. Another month passed, and one day, he was on his way home. He and Megan decided to send the kids to stay with Megan's mom for spring break. She loved having them visit since her husband passed away, and the kids loved her too. On his way, he received a call from Andy Baxter. Meet me in my office as soon as you can. Andy arrived shortly after he did. He looked serious. What's wrong? Did the cameras catch something? Andy stood up to put on his coat. There's no need to worry about the cameras. They work fine, but it's not good. You need to consider divorcing your wife. Baxter thought about it. Can you grab a soda for me so I can handle this alone? Andy made him a Coca-Cola and gave him a supportive hug. For what it's worth, I'm really sorry, he said. After that, he closed the door, instructing his team not to interrupt him. Taking a deep breath, Baxter turned on the video. The shock of what he saw was overwhelming. He saw his wife with other people in almost every room of the house, except for the kids' room. He noticed her with people he didn't recognize, including some men from his church and even his daughter's music teacher. It was painful to see her being unfaithful and laughing with the others at his expense. One man said something cruel to her while they were together. "I bet your husband can't do this, can he?" Megan replied, sounding lost in the moment. There were moments of mockery from others too, stating that he didn't know how to make her happy. The videos also showed her meeting different people in restaurants and clubs. She even met them in hotels and at their jobs, often alongside someone named Maxine. There was a video of Megan and Maxine together in Maxine's office with the window wide open, showing a complete lack of care for their actions. As Baxter watched, tears fell as anger slowly grew inside him. He realized that the people involved were well known in the community. He decided he would make sure they would be held accountable for what they had done. When he opened the door, Shannon looked surprised at his expression. "I'm sorry if I startled you. Tell Andy he can go ahead and file for divorce. Don't give the papers to her. Just let me know when they are ready and I'll handle it myself." The next week, Megan had just finished an encounter at work. She was cleaning up before returning when she heard a knock on her office door. It was one of her assistants. "Mrs. Davis, someone is here to see you. I think it's your husband." Megan hurried to the main entrance, worried about her children. When she arrived, she saw Baxter looking very calm. "Baxter, what are you doing here?" He gave her a tired smile. "I'm here to tell you in person two things. Don't come home and that our marriage is over." He handed her an envelope. Before she could respond, Baxter was already in his car and driving away, leaving her with tears in her eyes. Inside the envelope were divorce papers and a notice telling her not to return to their home. At family court, Megan insisted she hadn't done anything wrong and demanded half of Baxter's savings and benefits. Baxter and Andy waited quietly as Megan and her lawyer made harsh comments and accusations against Baxter. But when they finished, Baxter and Andy only smiled, ready to reveal something big. Andy spoke up. "Your Honor, if it pleases the court, I'd like to present some evidence." As the yellow envelopes were passed out, he pressed play. The video shared footage of Megan with others in their home, including insulting comments made about Baxter. In shock, Megan shouted, "You recorded me in my own home! How could you?" Before anyone could react, she leaped towards Baxter. He was prepared to defend himself, but a court officer intervened and stopped Megan. After the chaos, she was handcuffed and taken away for her outburst. The judge decided the case would continue the next week. When that week arrived, Andy received a call from Megan's attorney. After the conversation, he called Baxter into his office. "Hey, Baxter, how are you holding up?" Baxter gave him a look. "You're right. Dumb question. I'm sorry." "No need to apologize. I just zoned out for a bit. To be honest, it still feels unreal after everything. What's up?" Andy took a breath. "As you know, the divorce is in progress. I got an interesting call from her lawyer. It seems she now realizes she has made a mistake. Her time with the kids was over, and she had no support left. Now she was facing a serious charge that would keep her away for a while to reflect on her choices. But it seemed she wanted to talk to Baxter. This wasn't a chance for her to escape her situation. She understood that her career and life as she knew it were over. Would he meet with her? Baxter thought it over and decided to go see her. A few weeks later, he entered the jail after leaving his phone and ID behind. He made his way to the visiting area. He found Megan there. The confident woman he once knew was gone. Instead, she sat there looking defeated in her black and white striped outfit. She finally realized what she had truly lost. "Your lawyer said you wanted to talk," he began, but she quickly interrupted. "I don't want your help. I have enough to bring everyone else down. It's your turn to speak." Megan's tears fell silently as she looked up at him. "I really messed things up for us," she said, her eyes wide. Baxter was surprised. She hadn't called him that in a long time. Back then, when their child was born, they had been so close. I don't know what I was thinking getting involved with her. It felt like I was trapped, and I lost sight of what mattered. Life was beautiful with you and the kids, Baxter. I was too foolish to see it. I let that woman blind me. Yes, I felt things I never felt before, but I didn't share those feelings with you. I was ashamed and didn't want to lose the chance for us to grow together. Instead, I pushed you away and hurt our kids. This isn't me asking for you back. I just hope one day you can forgive me. I'm giving you full custody of the kids. I know I don't have a say anymore. I'm just saying sorry to my best friend. Baxter stayed quiet, a tear rolling down his cheek as he saw a glimpse of the friend he used to know. But it was too late for them. I forgive you, he finally said. Megan's eyes widened, and a tear-filled smile appeared on her face. She remembered the sweet nickname he used when they first started dating. But as you said, this is goodbye, he added. I may have custody, but if you choose to seek help, I won't keep it from you. The kids miss their mother, despite everything. They still need you. Megan nodded in understanding as Baxter stood to leave. Before exiting, he paused and spoke without looking back. It was good to see you again. Take care of yourself. That would be the last time he saw her. The papers were signed, and the marriage ended quickly. In the courtroom, Baxter and Megan shared a last hug and wished each other well. Afterward, Baxter spoke to his kids about what had happened. Okay, you both know your mom and I are getting a divorce. Now you need to understand what that means. Mom has given me full custody, which means you will be living with me. She won't be living with us anymore. You don't have to visit her, but I'm not going to stop you from seeing her if you want to. She still loves you both and hasn't abandoned you. He continued. Your mom is trying to get help to be a better parent. No matter what happens, I love you both very much and will always be here for you. The kids hugged their father tightly, knowing things would be different now. They felt angry at their mother, but still loved her, even as they disliked what she had done. I hope Mom gets the help she needs, Alex said softly. Yeah, me too, buddy, me too, Baxter replied, hugging his son tightly. Dad, I wish she never did this. I hate what she did, but I still love her, his daughter said, tears in her eyes. That's perfectly fine, hun. It's okay to be angry. I'm proud that you can still love her, though. She brought you into this world and has been by your side all these years. They all hugged each other and fell asleep on the couch, feeling tired. Baxter was awakened by a phone call. It was Andy. Hey man, what's up? It's 3 a.m, Baxter said. That's more reason to get things ready. Those videos are going to help you deal with those people who hurt your marriage. Are you ready for this? Andy asked. Absolutely, Baxter answered. Good. Get some more sleep. We start this afternoon. The process was beginning. The people involved in the videos with Megan were about to face serious consequences. Maxine received her papers that morning during a meeting, just when Megan had cut her off from certain meetings. At first, she thought nothing of it, seeing it as just another ended marriage. But before she could celebrate, a young woman approached her in the meeting. Maxine thought this was another opportunity for her. Maxine Gullett, yes? And you are... She started. The young woman didn't speak but handed her a vanilla envelope and took her picture. You have been served, she said. Maxine was shocked, and her co-workers couldn't believe their eyes. The same event unfolded all over town. One teacher was served during class. Another business owner received papers at home. A couple was served in the middle of a church meeting. The scandal affected many local businesses, big and small. Word got around that some powerful people were behind the breakup of a marriage between two young high school sweethearts. In the end, many lives were affected, and a lot of reputations were damaged. Miss Baldwin was divorced by her wife because of betrayal. Her wife handed her divorce papers along with a picture that proved her infidelity. The Howards and their brothers were kicked out of the church and had to pay back money from their own pockets. Maxine suffered the most. She not only distracted Megan with the intention of ruining her marriage, but she also took advantage of those who worked for her. Her business partners and clients ended up having to pay as well, months after everything unfolded. Melissa and Alex were doing their best to adapt. The divorce hurt, but they were trying to move on, especially with family counseling and time. Megan moved back in with her parents. She started seeing a psychologist nearby in Dallas and kept her promise to stay in touch with the kids. Baxter felt a mix of emotions, but mostly numb. He was focused on making sure the kids were okay and on finding a way to hold those responsible for his marriage's end accountable. He didn't take much time to think about his own feelings. He had given notice at work to take a break and spend time with his children. One evening, he found himself at a local bar he had been visiting since everything began. He didn't drink much, but it was a place to clear his head and chat with someone. The bar owner and server, Nia Williams, was someone he found comforting. Nia was about 5 feet 5 inches tall with lovely caramel skin and a fit figure. She had blue eyes and a short, stylish haircut that partially covered one of her eyes. As a veteran of the Army, she had a tattoo of a strong eagle in military gear, holding a knife in one hand and the American flag in the other. The words, "This we defend," were inked on her shoulder. Despite her strength, Baxter only saw her kindness and care. He knew she had served because of photos in her uniform that decorated the bar, including one where she was in an Apache helicopter. But he never pushed her for details. He appreciated her listening ear. As he shared his story, he began to open up about his plans and how his relationship was coming to an end. One night, he spoke to her about a video he stumbled upon that featured Megan and how heartbroken he felt. Nia offered him water instead of alcohol to help him stay sober and let him lean on her when he needed to cry. They started to share more with each other, and feelings began to blossom. He soon found his hand on her back, and she didn't pull away. In fact, her hands began to move too. It was only a moment before they would share a kiss. Suddenly, he realized what he was doing and stopped. "Oh my God, Neha, I'm so sorry for being disrespectful. I should not have done that." Neha softly placed her finger on his lips to quiet him. "Disrespectful. Baxter, I'm an adult. I knew what I was doing and what I wanted. You don't need to apologize, but I understand. You want to be loyal in the end. Just know that if you ever feel ready to open your heart again, you know where to find me." Eventually, the troubles and legal issues faded. Jobs, friendships, and families were left in chaos due to selfish choices. Many were involved with people who were already committed, thinking their actions had no consequences. After 7 months of talking and trying to control their feelings, the divorce was finally done. Baxter let his friend and his wife watch the kids while he went to see Neha. When he arrived, she was about to close the bar. He knocked, and when she opened the door, she smiled. "Hey, Baxter, everything all right? You're usually here earlier." Without speaking, he gently touched her cheek. They had grown close over the past year, and they both felt it. They hadn't crossed any lines, but their connection was clear. As he brushed his hand across her face, she felt a thrill and wanted something more. "Don't tease me. I heard the news. I'm here for you. Just show me already." He leaned in and kissed her deeply as they embraced. They shared a moment in the bar, as if they were long-lost friends finally reunited. Their voices filled the air as they savored each other. It had been months since Baxter had been this close to someone. Afterward, they rested on the floor, a blanket between them. "You're going to help me clean up this bar, right?" He smiled as he turned to her. "Yes, of course." As time passed, Baxter would eventually introduce his kids to his girlfriend. He asked if they wanted to meet her, and Alex was excited about the idea. He wanted to meet someone his dad liked. Melissa felt happy for her dad, but was concerned about him getting hurt again. They all met for a family dinner at a local pizza place. They ordered 2 large pizzas, one with everything, one with just cheese. Alex, curious, asked Neha, "Dad said you were in the Army and flew airplanes. What was that like?" Neha chuckled at the child's curiosity. Nia had a lot of flying experience. She flew Apache helicopters and a few Warhawks. She even flew with another pilot. You know what her name was? Alex shook his head. Starscream. Alex's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? That's amazing. They were like heroes," Nia explained. "But I thought Starscream was the bad guy," Alex said. Nia took a moment before answering. "Well, she was a bad guy to the people who were going to harm good people. I flew with her many times." Melissa jumped in. "Wait a minute. You two were fighter pilots? You both flew important missions for the Army?" Nia nodded. "Yes, we did. The pilot with me was tough, no doubt. She saved many lives, and she was a challenge to our enemies. We both were. She was the best pilot I ever worked with." In fact, if people saw our names in their mission brief, they knew they were safe. They called me Thundercracker. Nicknames are funny, but also special. It was based on our skills and a bit of humor. Since she was Starscream and I had my nickname, they called us the Decepticons. Baxter smiled as his kids listened closely to her stories. He nudged her and said, "You really have them interested." Both he and Neil laughed while the kids looked a bit puzzled. The rest of the evening was filled with joy and good memories. As time passed, Nia grew closer to the family. A year later, Nia walked down the aisle in her wedding dress. Melissa, now 14, was one of her bridesmaids. As the months went by, Melissa came to admire Nia for her strength and the challenges she faced. It felt like Nia was becoming a big sister, and eventually, a mother. Alex was the ring bearer. Nia's father, Stephen, who served in Vietnam, proudly walked her down the aisle. Nia's mother watched from the front row alongside Bear and his wife. The wedding was beautiful and heartfelt, held at Butler Park. Nia looked stunning in her dress, her baby bump barely showing even though she was 4 months along. The ceremony went smoothly and everyone celebrated the new couple, Mr. Baxter Davis and Mrs. Nia Williams Davis. Bear offered to keep the kids during their honeymoon a few months later. Morris Davis was born on October 31st at 10 p.m. He was a healthy baby boy. Morris was warmly welcomed by his new family when he and Nia finally returned home. Alex promised to watch over his baby brother, while Melissa promised to always be there for him. Baxter and Nia looked at their family with love and pride. Meanwhile, Robin had just awakened. She looked at his face, grateful to have him in her life, feeling thankful after everything that had happened with his friend Tim a few years back. He decided to get fit and prepare himself in case something like that happens again. He even let Tim and his father-in-law help him train. It was tough, but it was worth it. Robin smiled as she noticed the blanket on the bed. "I will see you soon, my dear husband." She got dressed in her pants and shoes, along with a light jacket to take the dog out. She took their 3-year-old pit bull for a walk at 3 in the morning. As she stepped outside, she thought of Baxter and Nia's wedding. She felt so happy for them. She remembered the cake they had at the reception and promised herself she would ask for the recipe to make it for Andy and the kids one day. However, as she walked, something felt off. Just a moment ago, she was sure she was in her neighborhood, but now it felt different, familiar, yet not quite home. Suddenly, someone tackled her from behind a van and she was startled. She quickly gathered herself and reached for her sidearm, checking on the people who had come to her aid. She then looked at the van in the distance and the building behind her. It was her childhood home. Wait, if I'm here, then that means. She slowly looked down at the people who had rescued her and noticed the wounds on their bodies. Her heart raced when she realized who they were. Mom, Dad. Both of them opened their eyes and spoke together. "Robin, they need you." She woke up abruptly, gasping and sweating. The noise disturbed Andy, who quickly came to her side to calm her down. "Robin, baby, it's me. Baby, hear my voice. Look at me." Andy held her face gently, making her focus on him until she calmed down. "Andy, is that you?" "Yes, baby, it's me." Robin hugged her husband tightly, tears streaming down her face. "The dream. It was about my parents. The shooting happened again right in front of me, and I couldn't stop it." "Oh, baby, that hurt so much, I couldn't." Robin paused, remembering something her parents had said. "They need you." Andy looked puzzled. "That doesn't give us much to go on." "Who do you think they meant?" Robin thought carefully. She had been thinking about Baxter and Neha's wedding, and suddenly a troubling thought crossed her mind. "Andy, can you do me a favor and call Baxter?" Meanwhile, Baxter had just finished an intimate moment with Neha. He took a moment to relax and enjoy the peaceful hush of the night as he looked into her eyes. "Wow, you are beautiful." Her radiant skin glowed softly in the dim light, and her smile brightened the room. She kissed him, taking a moment to savor the happiness they shared. "You're not too bad yourself, handsome." Baxter stood up to put on a tank top and pajamas. "I don't think we need an audience for this." Neha laughed. "Agreed. That's for my eyes only." Baxter glanced at Neha as she got up to leave the room. "If you're heading to the kitchen, can you bring me some ice water?" he asked with a warm smile. "Of course," she replied, giving him a quick kiss before walking out. "Love you." "Love you more," Baxter said as he stood and made his way downstairs. After stopping in the bathroom, he headed to the kitchen to get himself a drink. As he reached for a glass, something caught his attention. A family photo that usually hung by the stove was now near the door. A sense of unease crept over him. Then, in the corner of his eye, he noticed a shadow moving behind him. Before he could react fully, something sharp came toward him. Instinctively, he ducked just in time to avoid being hit. He grabbed a frying pan nearby and used it to block the attacks that followed. The intruder grew frustrated and began swinging faster and harder. Despite his efforts, Baxter couldn't avoid every strike. A sudden slash cut his arm, and he felt a sharp pain in his side. He cried out in agony. Upstairs, Neha heard the commotion. She quickly threw on some comfortable clothes, retrieved their emergency supplies, and moved toward their children's rooms. Entering Melissa's room, she gently woke her daughter. "Melissa, something's wrong," she said calmly but firmly. "Wake your brothers, take them to our room, lock the door, and call the police. Don't open it for anyone but me or Dad, okay?" Melissa's heart raced, but she nodded. She had practiced emergency drills with her parents and knew what to do. Gathering her brothers, she led them to the secured room. The door was reinforced and nearly impossible to break through. Once inside, she locked it and did exactly as her mother had instructed. Meanwhile, Neha hurried downstairs to help Baxter. She found him injured and struggling against the larger intruder. Blood stained his shirt, and his strength was fading. Even so, Baxter managed to disarm the attacker briefly, but the man quickly recovered, striking him hard and forcing him to the ground. The intruder pinned Baxter down, his hands tightening around his neck. "You should have stayed down," the man snarled. Suddenly, a loud noise filled the room. The attacker froze before collapsing to the floor. Neha stood nearby, trembling but determined. She rushed to Baxter's side. "Baxter, are you okay? Talk to me." Through the pain, Baxter managed to say, "I'm hurt, but I'm still here." Before they could process what had just happened, another loud noise echoed through the house. Neha gasped and fell to the floor, clutching her shoulder. She had been hit. From somewhere in the shadows, a voice called out with chilling anger. The man stopped talking when Baxter shot the python he had taken from Neha. The bullet hit him hard, leaving a serious wound. Despite his injury, he crawled to his wife, who was also hurt. "Neha, are you okay?" he asked. She smiled weakly and replied, "Not really, but I'm managing." Even in this tough moment, they found a way to laugh together. Baxter was trying to get up when he noticed someone outside the window with a gun pointed at him. He looked at Neha and said softly, "I love you. Please take care of everything." Meanwhile, Robin was racing through the city to reach Baxter and Neha's home. She felt a strong need to be there. She arrived to find a black van and a group of people getting out of it. Robin saw two of them heading toward the house, each holding a gun. One had a knife and a small gun on his side. Soon after, she heard gunshots from inside the house. That was all the motivation she needed. This time, she was prepared and determined to succeed. She called for backup and provided her details to the operator. Feeling relieved that she wore her protective gear, she noticed the attackers were dressed in black and had their weapons ready. Taking cover, she aimed and fired at one man, targeting the house. The bullet found its mark, and he fell to the ground. One of the attackers shouted in shock, "Johnny is dead! Who shot him?" The panicked man stepped out looking for answers. "Come out and fight me!" he yelled. Robin used the darkness to stay hidden behind a dumpster. She saw the man firing at random, thankful they were in a less populated area, reducing the chance of hitting anyone else. She knew she needed to act before someone else got hurt. Calmly, she took aim again, ensuring he couldn't see her. Then, with a sharp shot, she took him down before he could react. Another attacker emerged with a large gun, but Robin was steady with her aim. "If you want to see tomorrow, drop your weapon now," she commanded, handcuffing him without a fight. After securing the threat, she moved inside the house to check on Baxter and Neha. In the kitchen, she found them both hurt, with Baxter needing help. Robin quickly called for support on her phone. "I need an ambulance at this address right now. Just so you know, all the people involved are now in custody, including those who have passed away." Robin did her best to help. Then Baxter spoke up. Please check on the kids and make sure they are okay. At that moment, the police arrived. Your children will be fine. We need to get you both treated in the next few hours. Baxter and Nia were taken to the hospital. The kids were looked after until family members could come to get them. The men that Robin confronted were known criminals. Larry Summers, the only survivor, was arrested. The new Attorney General, Matthew Gonzalez, took on the case and discussed serious consequences. According to Texas law, even if you didn't harm anyone yourself, you can still face serious penalties if someone was harmed because of your actions. We can help you avoid the harshest punishment with a 30-year sentence if you tell us what you know, or you can choose to take your chances. Larry agreed to the terms and revealed who had hired him. A woman named Maxine Gullett was behind it. Her business was struggling, and she wanted revenge, using her contacts to make Baxter suffer. When she was arrested, she was at a dinner with friends. Shock and anger filled her face. Who do you think you are? I could buy your department and ruin you. Even with her anger, the evidence against her was strong. They had bank statements, video records, and a confession. When the contractors acted on her orders, she was genuinely amused, thinking Baxter and Nia were gone. What was worse was her plan for their children. She intended to have them sold. The Attorney General authorized her arrest, and through Larry, the police learned more about the trafficking operations. Larry provided details about missing persons, and even plans against high-ranking officials. These events brought back memories for many who had seen similar scandals in the past. When it was all over 100 people were arrested, facing sentences ranging from 20 years to life. Maxine Gullett received a serious punishment for trying to harm Nia and Baxter and for her plans regarding their children. In court, she saw Nia and Baxter and glared at them with intense hatred. Baxter looked back at her, whispering something only she could hear. You missed. Maxine was taken away, defeated after the sentencing. Baxter and Nia embraced Robin. Thank you for saving our family. Without you, I can't imagine what would have happened. Just thank you for everything, Robin said, wiping a tear from her eye. I'm just relieved you both are okay. That's what truly matters. Robin hugged the grateful couple before heading home. As soon as she walked in, her husband wrapped her in a warm embrace. Did I ever tell you how proud I am of you, and how much I love you? Robin kissed the man she cared for deeply. Only every chance you get, he said with a smile. Your parents would be so proud of you. A tear rolled down Robin's cheek, touched by his words. Thank you, my love. I appreciate you being in my life. I love you so much. The couple enjoyed their time together, feeling the warmth of their relationship. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a woman was drying herself off after a shower. She paid a young man for his services and then made a call to someone unknown. Hello? Yes, Maxine has not been able to keep things in order, and we will not help her anymore. We have handled everything despite the trouble she caused us. She continued. This lawyer, Andy Robbins, and his wife, Texas Ranger Sergeant Robin Robbins, might become an issue for us. Yes, ma'am. I will keep you updated. After ending the call, she looked at some photos of the people she mentioned, feeling a strange thrill at the thought. Finally, someone she found interesting. A man entered the back door of his home quietly. Everyone else was asleep. He glanced at the two boys, 10 and 7, peacefully resting on the couch, knowing they wouldn't cause him any trouble. He moved upstairs and saw what he wanted. A beautiful woman lay in bed. Her body was fit, and her nightgown barely covered her. She looked so peaceful, and he thought about how easy it would be to approach her. He shut the door behind him, ensuring he would not be disturbed. As he stepped toward her, ready to invade her space, she suddenly stirred. Hey, handsome! Karen turned to her husband, Todd, who had gently kissed her. Sorry if I woke you, but you looked so beautiful in bed that I couldn't resist. She smiled as she embraced him and replied, Well, if you don't mind. Could you show me how much you appreciate me? She teased. Todd didn't hesitate, kissing her deeply as they shared a special moment together. Feeling the connection between them grow stronger. They spent the night in each other's arms, their laughter and whispers filling the room, enjoying their closeness. Karen and Todd shared a moment of happiness together, They held each other tightly, enjoying the joy of their bond. Todd chuckled softly, and Karen looked at him, puzzled but amused. "What's so funny?" she asked. Todd smiled and replied, "I'm glad I listened to Tim's advice and made our room cozy." Karen blushed a bit, but then playfully nudged Todd. "You had a hand in that, didn't you?" she teased. "Absolutely, and I'd do it all over again," he replied. They both laughed and exchanged sweet kisses. Then, Karen's smile faded slightly. "I love you, Todd. I wouldn't be here without you," she confessed. Todd gently placed a finger on her lips. "This is all you, beautiful. All your strength and courage got you here. I was just cheering you on." Karen kissed him again, gazing at her wedding ring like it was a treasure. "You played a big part in my journey. Just accept the compliment," she said. Todd grinned. "How could I say no to that?" With that, they embraced once more and drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Todd woke up and saw a peaceful Karen lying beside him, her hair slightly messy, but her face calm and beautiful. "You've been through so much," he whispered, giving her a gentle kiss on the forehead. She stirred softly, and he quietly got up to shower. As he left the room, he placed another light kiss on her head. Walking downstairs, he spotted Mark and Patrick sleeping on the couch after a long night of watching movies. Todd felt a smile creep across his face as he began to make breakfast for his new family. Meanwhile, the smell of bacon started to wake Karen. She got up and made her way downstairs, catching sight of Todd in the kitchen. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" he asked with a playful grin. She leaned in to kiss him and said, "What's cooking?" Then she noticed the boys still asleep on the couch. "Hey, you two, wake up! Someone is making blueberry pancakes, and if you don't hurry, I might eat them all." Karen called out, "No, wait! Mom wouldn't do that!" They groaned sleepily. "We're up! No need to shout!" they replied, finally getting up to join the fun in the kitchen. "Good morning, guys! How's it going?" Todd greeted. The boys rushed over to him, and he pulled them both into a warm hug. "Whoa, I didn't know my pancakes had such a fan club," he joked, and everyone laughed together. Todd had been their stepdad for over a year now. It was a little awkward at first, especially when he had to tell the boys he was marrying their mom. Karen shared custody of the boys with their father, her ex-husband Tim, but Todd was learning to build a new family with them all. Despite what had happened between her and Tim, they worked to rebuild their friendship. They respected each other, even if they weren't a couple anymore. Patrick, their son, looked out for his mother after everything they had gone through. As time passed, the boys began to accept Todd into their lives. In fact, they grew to bond with him and even care for him. Todd and Patrick became particularly close. When Patrick faced trouble at school because of bullying related to his mother, Todd stepped in to help. He taught Patrick martial arts, not to fight back, but to cope with his feelings and the difficult experiences he had faced. After breakfast one morning, Todd hugged his family goodbye before heading to Andy's office. Just before he left, Karen pulled him back for a warm kiss, telling him to come back to them. Todd assured her he would. He made his way to the office, where he was set to meet Andy. Although a scandal had been going on, Todd wasn't caught up in that drama. What concerned him more was the connection between those involved in it, especially the woman who had caused issues with Robin's investigation. He recalled reading in a report about a client whose spouse had entered their home unexpectedly, which unsettled him. Not to mention the fact that there were hired outsiders who had nearly harmed the client and his wife. Todd's instincts as an investigator told him there was more going on than just catching unfaithful partners. He was convinced that this situation was not finished. As Todd parked in front of Andy's office, he mentally prepared for their needed conversation about his worries. Inside, Andy spotted Todd's vintage Chevy Impala as it arrived. He felt good about hiring Todd as his main field agent. His skills were outstanding. However, he wished Todd would share more about his life in Alaska. That information was known only to his wife, Karen, who kept it to herself. Todd was impressive in how he gathered evidence and understood complex situations. But when Todd called him the night before, Andy could hear concern in his voice. They were set to discuss those worries that day. Just then, Andy heard the door open behind him and caught a whiff of a breakfast sandwich. "Hey, as your employee, I have to say something about your meal choice," he joked. "You look like a movie star, but that food isn't healthy. What is that sandwich made of?" Andy took a bite and laughed. "I call it a delight for my taste buds, but enough about my diet. Let's talk about what's important. You sounded worried last night about something from our work last month. Talk to me, man. What's bothering you?" Todd took a breath before he spoke. "Okay. We had some tough times and made some mistakes. I'm not complaining about that. Honestly, it could not have happened to a more deserving group of people, in my opinion. But there are a few things that stand out. One is our first client. He changed the locks before divorcing his wife. Then a few nights later, she comes into her house. At first, I thought she had broken in, remember?" Andy nodded. "Yeah, you said you wanted to look into it. That's right. Then we find out the same man who changed the locks was involved with her at some parties with a woman named Maxine." Todd almost spat the name as he thought about what he saw while looking into Maxine and her friends. "I remember, Todd, but we also ended up thinking about taking action against the locksmith. Still, our client chose to settle for $10,000. They ended up firing the locksmith and getting new locks for free. I thought we could have sued for more, but our client felt bad for them. I wanted to ask for $100 to cover damages and distress, but Baxter disagreed." "Why are you mentioning this?" Todd looked at his boss and friend. "Because it points to something bigger. I don't care how good a relationship is. No one would risk their job over something small like this. Not unless someone has some influence. I've seen this before. Think about it. A man is with a married woman not even 24 hours before her husband changes the locks. Then a day or two later, she has a new key without her husband's approval. When Baxter told me this, I was upset, to say the least. But I have to admit, I admire how he thought it through. He didn't want the locks changed. He knew she would come back to make things difficult, but he didn't want to put their kids at risk, and all the evidence worked out for him. Still, I know it's not proof of something huge, but it's a reason to be careful in this job. This won't be the last time we deal with something like this. If Robin were here as law enforcement, she would agree." Andy thought about what he heard. He couldn't deny it made sense. "Okay, you've got a point. We'll be more cautious." Both men then heard a knock on the door. As Andy opened it, he saw Rebecca waiting on the other side. "I'm sorry to interrupt, guys, but we have a new client in the office. He looks like he's been through a lot and needs help with something." Andy and Todd exchanged glances and nodded. Then Andy replied to Rebecca, "Sure thing." Meanwhile, 2 miles outside the Patrick O'Daniel unit in Gatesville, Texas, a woman stood on a hill with a view of the prison. She was 5'4" and had an athletic build. She wears practical clothes that blend in with the surroundings. Even with her mask on, she looks attractive. She sets down a bag she has been carrying for a long distance and takes out the parts of a large sniper rifle from its case, adding a special air tank to it. She then aims the rifle at a specific spot on a prison wall 2 miles away, carefully choosing her position to avoid sunlight that might give her away. Once ready, she waits for the right moment. The rifle is designed to keep the noise down. After firing, she calmly disassembles her weapon and puts it away piece by piece. She changes into clothes that make her look like an ordinary hiker and heads to her vehicle, a Jeep Cherokee. Inside the prison, an inmate wakes up to the loud sound of something hitting the wall. She sees dust in her cell and calls out to her neighbor. "What's going on? Maxine! It's too early for this!" There is no response. "I know you can hear me! Answer me!" Still quiet. Guards at the control center notice the dust coming from Maxine's cell, and one decides to check it out. When she arrives, the scene is shocking, and she quickly steps back. She recovers and calls for help. "We have an inmate down in the O'Daniel unit. I need immediate medical assistance back in Austin." Meanwhile, a man walks into Andy's office. He is of average height and build, appearing as if he's had a rough day. "I saw your ad online. I think my wife is being unfaithful," he says, looking down. Andy gestures for him to sit down. "I'm sorry about that. Would you like something to drink? Maybe a soda?" The man gives a weak smile, still looking sad. "Do you have a Coke?" Todd hands Andy a soda can, which the man takes gratefully and sips. The cold drink provides a brief sense of comfort before the reality sinks back in. My name is Jason Wynn. I work in an office downtown, nothing grand. I help with contracts and paperwork for a company that doesn't think much of me. I've been married to my wonderful wife, Linda, for 15 years. We met when I was 21 and she was 19. Thinking back, maybe I should have seen things differently. When we first met, it felt like we were meant to be. She worked in a small shop downtown. She was, and still is, a lovely woman. She could have anyone, but she chose me. It felt good, especially since I often felt invisible to others. Jason sat quietly, his hands clasped tightly in front of him. He took a deep breath before speaking. My wife and I have been together for years. We met, fell in love, and built a life together. After 7 months of dating, we moved in, and soon after we got married. It wasn't long before we had our daughter, Nicole. She's 13 now, our miracle baby. Her birth was difficult, and we almost lost Linda, but we made it through. He paused, emotions flickering across his face. For years, we've had a happy, loving family. Linda is active in the community, part of the PTA, and involved in local events. Nicole, well, she's brilliant, a real prodigy. She's already on track to graduate high school early despite being so young. I couldn't be prouder of my family. Jason's voice wavered slightly, but he pressed on. But now everything feels uncertain. He stopped again, clearly struggling with his next words. I noticed something the other day. Linda received a message on her phone. I only caught a glimpse before she deleted it. It was from another man, and it said, "Yesterday was amazing. I can't wait to see you again." He clenched his fists tightly, trying to keep his composure. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to overreact or accuse her of something without knowing the full story. But I can't stop thinking about it. I need to know the truth, no matter what it is. He looked up, desperation in his eyes. I've heard about the work you've done, how you helped Baxter uncover the truth and protect his family. I don't want revenge. I just want clarity. Can you help me? Andy exchanged a glance with Todd, who gave a small nod, signaling his readiness. Andy turned back to Jason. We'll help you. Let's talk about the details. Elsewhere, Robin walked through the grounds of a Texas facility, her presence calm yet commanding. Though she had endured challenges, including the loss of an eye in the line of duty, she remained resilient. Known for her sharp mind and quick reflexes, she carried out her responsibilities with skill and determination. Robin's focus wasn't just on her abilities, but on serving justice and ensuring the truth prevailed, a mission she approached with unwavering dedication. Standing at 5'7" with a slim and fit build, she wore her usual black eye patch, featuring a dark blue crosshair in the center. She had on a dark gray blazer over a white shirt, black jeans, and tactical shoes. She received the news that Maxine Gullett had died in her cell. But it was the details that caught her attention. Maxine's death was caused by a high-powered rifle. The bullet was found lodged in the wall on the opposite side of the prison. After going through another wall, it finally slowed down. She examined the bullet's path and where it had stopped. Robin studied the spot where the bullet entered. It was right at the head of the bed, exactly where Maxine rested. Each night, about 30 minutes before, she would wake up and somehow the bullet did not hit anyone else. Where does this lead to? Robin asked the warden. It leads to empty land and hills, the warden replied. But Robin wasn't satisfied. Let's get some people outside to check the next 5 miles east of the O'Neill wing. Once outside, they discovered something 2 miles away, a shell casing from a bullet. Robin held the item in her gloved hand, made a call, and waited for a response. She didn't wait long. Xavier. Captain Baxter Davis was well known among the Texas Rangers. He was a tall man with a strong build. Despite his age, he had many years of experience in catching criminals. His time in Vietnam and over 30 years in law enforcement showed his skills. Cap, I found something related to that case from a month ago with the Davises. The woman who organized it has been killed. It was the way she was killed that stands out. Whoever did this shot her with a high-powered rifle from at least 2 miles away, through the wall while she was asleep, without hitting anyone else. Cap, this person didn't just know what they were doing. They had insider knowledge of the prison. There was a moment of silence. Robin, gather any information you can about enemies, friends, and associates. We also need to look into the staff there. Start with bank records and any rumors of unexpected wealth. This shooter didn't act alone. They knew exactly when and where Maxine would be at that time. Let's keep this on the down low for now. Paperwork can be at Dino's. It will serve as our headquarters. Robin sensed a hint of worry in her mentor's voice. Cap, do you think this is like before? Xavier hesitated before answering. No, Robin. I have a bad feeling it's going to be worse. Back at the office, he had all the necessary approvals from Jason to access and record his home. Now remember, we won't disclose where the cameras are hidden for your legal protection and personal safety. According to the information, your house is in your name, from your father's will, and solely in your name. This was done before you got married. So if there is a divorce, that house will still be yours. You have every right over what happens there. Keep records in case you want to change the locks or if you decide to go through with a divorce. Call our office and we will help you as best as we can. A small smile formed on Jason's face, bringing a spark of hope, and he placed his hands on Jason's shoulders. No matter what happens, Jason, we will be right here with you. Jason then shook his hand and hugged him tight. Thank you. Thank you so much for this. For the first time since the difficult news, he felt hopeful. No matter how things turn out, he will find support as he moves forward. Andy looked at Todd. You can do this. Todd replied, Do you really need to ask? I'll show up as a helper. We should put recording devices in both cars and areas around the house since everything is in his name. Both audio and video will be very clear. But really, I want you to think about what we talked about earlier. No nonsense, okay? Andy smiled at his friend's concern. Okay, I promise to be careful. Todd playfully nudged Andy's shoulder. Okay, smart guy, I've got your back, you know. They both laughed, but Andy continued. Todd, I trust your judgment and your character. That's not just why I hired you, but also why I consider you a friend. I promise to stay alert. Okay, Todd replied, smiling. That's all I ask. All right, I need to go and get ready to work. They shared a smile and a hug before Todd left to get supplies and information. Jason made all the necessary payments, including one for a paternity test. Hearing that news stung Jason, but Andy calmly explained why it was important, and Jason eventually accepted it. As Andy continued his work, he thought about Todd's words. The more he reflected, the more he wanted to ensure the safety of himself and his family. Just to be cautious, Jason headed home, planning to follow Andy's advice. He was advised to watch his accounts and transfer money to a separate account if needed. He was also told to speak with the bank managers to make sure no large amounts could be withdrawn without his permission, and that he should be alerted for any such actions. Jason went through the motions, acting almost robotic, as if he were preparing like a machine rather than a person. His feelings felt low, as if turned off. Once he arrived home, it no longer felt like home. It was as if he were in an unfamiliar place with someone he thought he knew well. He wanted to believe it was all in his mind, but deep down, he understood that his marriage would change forever, whether he wanted it to or not. While he was lost in thought, he saw his daughter Nicole coming down the stairs. Dad, you're home. Nicole wrapped her arms around her father and he hugged her back. When she looked up, she noticed his eyes looked red. Dad, are you okay? Jason sat at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. He was lost in thought when his daughter, Nicole, approached him. Have you been crying, Dad? What's wrong? She asked gently. Jason looked up, trying to smile. Nicole was sharp for her age, already proving she was destined for big things. She was planning to work for NASA or become the next Stephen Hawking someday. Still, despite her brilliance, she was just a kid. I'm fine, sweetheart, he replied, trying to steady his voice. It's just been a tough day, that's all. How about we go grab your favorite ice cream? Banana splits with hot chocolate and almonds? Nicole's face lit up, and she eagerly agreed, her excitement momentarily easing Jason's heavy heart. As they got ready to leave, a knock on the door stopped him. Turning toward the stairs, he saw Linda, his wife, coming down. She was dressed sharply, despite claiming earlier it was her day off. Hey, honey, Linda said warmly as she walked over and kissed him. Jason reciprocated the affection, though unease lingered in his mind. "I thought you weren't working today," Jason said casually. "Last-minute meeting," Linda replied. "It's for the after-school committee. Something urgent came up." Jason nodded, though doubts gnawed at him. Her explanation didn't sit right, but he forced himself to keep his concerns to himself. He watched as she hugged Nicole and left, her polished demeanor leaving him wondering how much of her charm was real. Later that evening, Karen stood in the kitchen preparing dinner for her family. The familiar smell of fried pork chops, mashed potatoes, and broccoli with cheese filled the room. As she worked, her thoughts drifted to how far she had come. 2 years ago, her life had fallen apart. Her repeated mistakes cheating on her then-husband Tim and refusing to take responsibility had nearly destroyed everything she held dear. It was a time she would never forget. Her mind lingered on the day when everything changed. She and her son, Patrick, were in unimaginable danger. She had been trapped, unable to escape a terrible situation. Tim's intervention had saved both her and Patrick. His bravery had brought them back from the brink and protected their family from harm. A shiver ran down Karen's spine as fragments of the past surfaced. But she shook off the memories and focused on the task at hand, determined to keep building a better life for her family. 4-0. When it was over, she agreed to the divorce terms without hesitation. She knew she needed help and had already started taking steps toward healing. For over a year, she worked hard to confront her past and understand the choices that had brought her to such a painful point in her life. During her recovery, she stayed at a remote facility in Alaska, hidden in a quiet valley. The facility, a repurposed military base, became a place where she could face her inner struggles and begin to heal. It was there that she met someone who changed her life. One morning, while jogging near the facility, she saw him fishing by a stream. He had a calm presence, yet his demeanor hinted at a past full of challenges. There was a quiet strength about him, one born from enduring hardships. She couldn't help but feel a connection to him. As she passed by, he called out, "You know, if you keep staring, the wildlife might get nervous and call for backup." His humor caught her off guard, and she laughed for the first time in what felt like ages. That brief exchange sparked a connection, and over time, they began to talk more. Their conversations turned into regular meetups, where they would jog, train, and share stories. He even helped her improve her hand-to-hand skills and taught her practical techniques for self-defense. It wasn't just training, it was his way of helping her find her strength again. With his guidance and support, she gained the confidence to face her fears and the weight of her past. Over time, their friendship deepened into something more. They began to trust and care for one another, slowly building a bond that felt safe and real. As their relationship grew, so did her courage to share her story. She told him about the mistakes she had made, the pain she had caused, and the danger her family had faced. She spoke about the time when she and her son, Patrick, were taken by dangerous people and the fear she felt as she fought to protect him. She described how her son, even as a young child, had shown incredible bravery in such a terrifying situation. Through these conversations, she found understanding and compassion in him. He listened without judgment, and his support gave her strength to keep moving forward. Though her past was full of challenges, she now saw a path to a better future, a future she could build one step at a time with resilience and hope. She shared with Todd the painful memories of her past, including the terrifying moments when her life and her son's were in danger. She recalled how Tim found her in the darkest time, brought her back from the brink, and ensured their safety. Though the details of what happened to those responsible were vivid in her mind, she chose her words carefully, focusing on her gratitude for her survival and her son's protection. As she watched her children playing outside, a tear rolled down her cheek. She remembered a time when she thought she would never experience such a moment again. The memory of Todd's words from their quiet conversations came back to her, giving her strength. Todd had shared pieces of his past with her, explaining that he wasn't originally from Alaska, but from Chicago. Even his name, Todd McFarlane, was an alias. His real name was Mark Slate. Todd explained how he had served as a canine officer in Chicago for over a decade, joining the police force right out of high school. He was inspired by his father, Marcus Slate, a former Navy SEAL who had served during the Vietnam War. After the conflict, Marcus transitioned into Black Ops, becoming an expert in hand-to-hand combat and mastering multiple martial arts, including Krav Maga, karate, judo, and more. But the toll of his covert missions and the loss of comrades led Marcus to leave the service and pursue a quieter life as a police officer in Chicago. Todd described how much he idolized his father. Marcus had not only taught him to defend himself, but also instilled a sense of justice and courage. From a young age, Todd trained rigorously under his father's guidance, often enduring tough lessons. Despite the difficulty, Todd's determination mirrored his father's, and he never gave up. When Todd graduated high school, he entered the Chicago Police Academy, carrying forward the lessons his father had taught him. Excelling in his training, he graduated at the top of his class and began his career as a police officer. His dedication and bravery soon earned him a reputation for being one of the city's finest officers. Todd consistently risked his safety to protect others, showing fairness and respect in his duty while maintaining a firm stance against those who threatened peace. In his 5th year on the force, Todd was assigned a new partner, a German shepherd named Midnight. The bond between them became one of trust and loyalty, a partnership that further solidified Todd's commitment to justice and protection. As she reflected on Todd's story, she felt inspired by his resilience and sense of purpose. It reminded her that healing and rebuilding were possible, no matter how difficult the journey might seem. He was seen as unpredictable and hard to find, so plans were made to get rid of him. But Max stepped in to help and took him in. It was hard, but slowly they became a strong team against crime. In his 10 years of fighting crime, he solved many cases, stopped serial offenders, faced dangerous gangs, and shut down illegal activities. He received 4 awards, including a Medal of Valor for his bravery. He risked his life to save others, but everything changed when he was in his late 20s. His parents were tragically killed at home. His father was falsely accused of being involved with a criminal group. Max was framed for their deaths. In an instant, he went from being a hero in the city to a disgraced officer who was seen as a criminal. But Max did not give up easily. He learned that his father had uncovered a conspiracy involving city leaders and government officials. Max managed to escape several attempts on his life. Many members of criminal groups were killed in the streets of Chicago that night, all seeking a reward for him. In the end, corrupt officials were taken down, including the mayor, a U.S. senator, an FBI agent, and a captain from the Chicago police. The final showdown happened in an old car factory. The fight was intense, leaving Max hurt. Though wounded, he faced off against the last corrupt officer, Richard. Their fight quickly turned to hand-to-hand combat. Max's injury put him at a disadvantage, and it was a tough battle, but Max ultimately overcame Richard. In the end, the truth cleared Max's name, but the damage to his reputation was too severe. After providing evidence, including his Medal of Valor and a reward from the FBI for his work in stopping a corrupt agent, he still decided to change his identity. He wanted to leave the past behind. Once known as Chicago's finest, he became Priya and moved to Alaska, where he became a state trooper. Eventually, he met Karen, and their story began. He supported her when she faced difficult times, and she was there for him when he had to make a hard decision. All those years of fighting against crime took a toll on him. Soon he learned he had cancer, and there was no treatment to help. It broke Max's heart to see his brother suffer in this way. But he knew he had to help end his pain, no matter how difficult it was for him. This experience changed him forever. But Karen was there to help. They supported each other through tough times. He played a big role in helping her find herself again, to love herself, and to break free from her past struggles. She helped him cope with the loss of his family and career, reminding him that unworthy people do not matter. Together, they made a positive impact on many lives. His parents and late partner would be proud of the person he has become. They discovered love, trust, and respect for one another. Karen had just finished putting the burnt pork chops in a bowl along with mashed potatoes and broccoli. She called out, "Hey boys, dinner's ready." The boys rushed inside. Karen quietly thanked Tim for allowing her to have the boys every other week. Setting the table, she suddenly felt arms around her. She jumped in surprise and heard her husband's voice. "Wow, who got you so jumpy? I keep telling you to take it easy on the coffee." As she collected herself, Karen playfully nudged Todd. "You scared me. You know that?" Todd grinned. That was kind of the idea. They exchanged a quick kiss, but Todd noticed her sad smile when they pulled apart. "Hey, it's just a week. The boys will be back with us soon." "They stay with Tim 1 week and then it's our turn," she replied, tears filling her eyes while her smile grew. "It's not just that. Well, not entirely, but I'm grateful to have them in my life at all. Todd, I shouldn't even be here. My boys should not come home for dinner with us. You shouldn't be my loving husband, and my ex and his wife shouldn't just be civil with us, but among my friends. They even invited us to their wedding, and we went to ours in return. Janine's speech at our wedding was beautiful. Honestly, I feel like I shouldn't even be alive because of the mistakes I made years ago. Yet here I am, with all of this and more. Max, I love you so much. I wasted my chances once before, but I won't do that again. I have a second chance now, and I won't mess it up. You don't have to try to be their dad, but they care about you just the same. Thank you for being in my life and for everything you've brought back to me." Todd smiled and kissed her, looking deep into her eyes. "Anytime, beautiful." Just then, Mark and Patrick ran inside, covered in dirt and mud from their football game with the kids next door. "Todd! Where did you come from?" they shouted, tackling him to the ground. Karen watched them, smiling, grateful to see the family she thought she had lost. She knew Todd could never replace Tim, but that was okay. It was truly a blessing. Everything was turning out for the best. She knew there were 4 people who would do anything to protect and care for the boys, even risking their own lives. Yes, she would do whatever it took for them, just like the others. Each of them alone could fill a whole cemetery with anyone foolish enough to hurt their family. From what she learned in the past few years from Robin and Todd, she felt prepared. But for now, she just sat and smiled at the sight in front of her, watching the boys play with Todd. She closed her eyes and let a tear fall. She whispered a simple word to God, whom she had once doubted but now respected. "Thank you." Meanwhile, a man walked out of a store with a bag of chips. He was overweight and about 5'9". Just as he was about to get into his car, his phone rang. Not recognizing the number, he answered. "Hello? Your help is no longer needed." The last thing he noticed was the phone before everything went dark. The next morning, Jason woke up with a sense of purpose. He looked beside him and saw his wife had not returned home yet. Checking his phone, he saw a text from around 1 in the morning. "Sorry, baby. Our meeting took longer than expected. I'll see you in the morning. I love you." He stared at the words and wondered if she truly meant it or if it was just a habit now. But he remembered what Andy had said, to act as normal as possible. Sighing, he replied, "Hey, I just got your message. Thanks for letting me know. I'll take Nicole to school before work. Just come home safe, baby. Love you." With that, he prepared for his day. He knew that last night cameras had been set up, but he wasn't sure where Andy and Todd would start their search. Then came the difficult part before getting ready for work. He went to his daughter's room. She always slept soundly after having ice cream, and he took advantage of that. He took a cotton swab and gently collected samples from the inside of her cheeks, placing it in a small container that Andy had given him. He also took a strand of her hair from her brush and put it in another container. It felt like a heavy burden on his heart, like lifting a weight far too great. He was to take the samples to the address provided, where they were expecting him, with results promised in a week. That week would be spent watching Linda closely. The thought of what he might discover worried him, but it was something he had to face. He began his day, getting his daughter ready for school. They had a deep connection. Her mother wasn't unkind and genuinely cared for her, but she never spent much time building a close relationship with Nicole like Jason did. Nicole truly was a daddy's girl, and he loved her just as much as she loved him. The thought of troubling news about his marriage weighed heavily on his heart. "Okay, Dad, I'm ready to go." He smiled at her. "Okay, sweetie, let's go." As he drove her to school and dropped her off, he wrapped his arms around her tightly. "I love you so much, sweetheart. I'm really proud of you." Moments like this filled Nicole with joy. They made her feel unstoppable. "Thank you, Daddy. I love you too." As he watched her enter the building, he steeled himself for what he needed to uncover about his marriage. Robin woke up late in the morning. When she opened her eyes, she felt her husband Andy's gentle kiss on her forehead. "Good morning, sleepyhead. You came in late last night. You're not seeing someone else, are you?" Robin was surprised, but remembered Andy's playful humor. She knew he would never seriously suspect her of such a thing. They loved and trusted each other, and she had her own fun sense of humor. In her sleepy but playful tone, she replied, "You caught me. I have a young admirer who's very skilled. Said there's no way you could compete." Andy playfully took her hands and surprised her with his sudden movement. She enjoyed every moment of it. Then he leaned in closer. "Is that so?" Andy asked, with a teasing smile, before leaning in to kiss her. After a brief moment of tenderness, they embraced, before settling back for a relaxed moment together. "What happened last night?" Andy asked as they cuddled. "I got your message that you'd be late, but when you came home, you looked worn out." Robin took a breath. "I'm sorry, it was just a tough day. We had to handle a case involving a serious crime. The victim was Maxine Gullett, the same person linked to the trouble in your client's marriage." Andy was shocked. "Wait, what? How did that happen?" Noticing his concern, she placed her hand on his chest. "She was found in her cell. It was unexpected. But I can't give you all the details right now. It happened in the last day or so." She paused. "But I promise I'll be all right. This is not my first challenging case." Before Andy could say more, she reassured him. "Yes, that's all the more reason to be cautious, and I will be—" He kissed her with warmth, trying to lighten the mood. What a way to start the day. Robin smiled. "I might have an idea to lift our spirits." Both smiled as Andy helped Robin lay down comfortably beneath him. They were about to enjoy their time together when Robin's phone rang. No. Robin made a playful pout, and Andy couldn't help but chuckle lightly despite feeling a bit annoyed. Robin answered the phone. "Hello?" "No, I'm fine." "You're not interrupting anything at all." An annoyed Robin replied, only to feel a gentle tap on her arm. Startled, she silently mouthed, "Stop." Even though she didn't want him to stop, she listened further. "Yeah, I remember. Wait, what?" "Okay, I'm on my way, Captain." Concern washed over Andy's face. "What is it?" Robin quickly got dressed, a sight he usually liked to see, but he noticed something was off. "There's been another incident. This time it's 30 minutes south of Boston. The same pattern. Whatever this is, it's connected." Andy watched Robin get ready, moving quickly and efficiently. "I'm sorry, but I have to pause our plans for now." Just as she was about to leave, Andy pulled her back gently, seeing her in just her pants and a tank top. He kissed her tenderly, and she kissed him back warmly. After a moment, he pulled away and said, "You come back to me, Ranger. That's an order." She smiled and hugged him tightly. "I promise, my love. You're not getting rid of me that easy." With that, she hopped into her car and drove off to meet her captain. Meanwhile, Todd was watching Linda, who just got home. He set up several cameras and microphones around the house, making sure they were hidden well. He knew Jason and his daughter were out for the day, leaving Linda alone. He understood that if she were going to do something, it would be now. He waited in his car down the street, hidden but able to see everyone entering the house. It wasn't long before he noticed activity. He saw Linda in the family room sipping juice. Her role on the committee had become important and even paid her at some point, but Todd sensed she was involved in something else. Then he heard her voice. "Hey, you, I just want to say last night was wonderful." "No, he doesn't suspect anything. Look, we talked about this. I'm not ready to leave him yet. He is my safety net. You are great at what you do, but not yet, okay? When Nicole finishes high school, we can be together, and I'll take what I can from him. At least half. Besides, you keep him busy at work anyway. It's not like he'll tell his boss." Todd thought to himself. "Supervisor? That's some helpful information. Thanks, Linda." He tuned back into her conversation. "How about we meet up later? Where?" "At our usual spot, the drive-in. No one goes there anymore anyway, since it was closed years ago. It was their little secret." Todd observed as Linda finished her call and answered another phone. "Hey, sweetie, how was work?" she asked. "Oh, I'm sorry I couldn't come home last night. They kept me a bit longer at the office." "Also, I have some bad news." I might have to leave for work earlier than I thought for another project. Yes, I know it's Nicole's presentation today, but I promise I'll make it up to you. Seriously, I have more responsibilities now. I'm sorry if that's hard for you, she continued. Todd noticed her annoyance as she spoke. Please don't be like that, Jason. There's nothing wrong with us. We just both have a lot to manage right now, okay? I love you too, she said, then hung up with a frustrated look on her face. Such a pathetic idiot, she whispered as Todd watched her, knowing she was preparing for her next meeting. She had just lied to her husband and mocked him behind his back. Todd saw her head toward the bathroom. It was cloudy, and the few neighbors nearby were not close enough to see what was happening. He got out of his car and approached her car, Jason's car. Quickly and quietly, he placed hidden cameras, microphones, and a tracker inside. All equipment was undetectable. After that, he returned to his car and drove to Andy's office. It was time to share the news. Meanwhile, another woman stepped out of the shower. In her early 30s, but looking much younger, she dried off her skin and hair. She smiled at a tattoo of the Grim Reaper on her back, noticing a little angel beside it. Once dressed, she walked to the bedroom and saw a young couple sleeping. As she got ready, she couldn't help but glance at them, recalling the previous night. It's been a while since I enjoyed such passionate company, she thought. She approached them, kissing their foreheads gently, taking in their scents. I hope we meet again, she whispered before leaving the room. As she stepped outside and got in her Jeep, her phone rang. Yes, I'm working on the grocery list now. The eggs and chips are taken care of. Is it all right if I have my drink now? She asked, despite wanting to chat with Robin. Irritation crossed her face at the response, but then she smiled. Do you want the milk instead? Yes, of course, that should be fine. I'll speak to you later then. The woman hangs up the phone, a big smile on her face. Oh, finally. I may not get what I wanted, but I can at least start the fun. She smiles again and looks at a photo of Texas Ranger Robin Robbins with her husband, Andy Robbins. She tosses the photo into the back next to her bag, where she keeps her items for work, humming to the song, You Look So Fine by the band Garbage. Meanwhile, Robin and her captain look over the latest person found in a parking lot. The situation is similar to what happened with Maxine, but now it's out in the open. Do we have any information on him? The captain asks Robin. Yes, we do. Turns out this guy worked at the same women's prison where Maxine was serving her time. Any guesses on where he was? Robin closes her eyes, standing up after examining the body. I don't need to guess. I'm sure he was in charge of her unit. He must have told someone about when and where she would be, but he couldn't have done it alone. He needed help someone to keep her occupied without being obvious. If he had worked alone, we'd have 3 bodies by now, not just 2. Our records show that it wasn't a guard because he worked in that unit alone every day. He never went into her cell, but he wasn't the only one allowed in there. Captain Xavier looks interested as Robin pulls out a picture of a young woman. Who is she? He asks. This is Carmen Hernandez. She's Puerto Rican, in her mid to late 20s, and has a light tan complexion. She's supposed to be released next month after serving 5 years for assault. She's been quiet in prison and has someone waiting for her on the outside. It's strange that someone would try to have Maxine harmed. Robin and her captain share a look of understanding, and he responds, Well, let's go ask her. Back at the office, Andy and Todd review what they found along with more evidence from the car recordings. It looks like Linda picked up her boyfriend Jason in her car. His boss, Albert Bosworth, is in his late 20s and got his job mainly because his father is the owner of the company. He's known to pick on and bully employees, often in personal matters. Jason isn't different. Andy gestures for Jason to come over to discuss their findings when he arrives. Both he and Todd look serious. Jason, why don't you have a seat? Jason looks at Andy, sensing the weight of the situation. He realizes 2 things. They found something important, and whatever it is, he won't like it. Jason noticed the looks of real regret and care on their faces. It's okay, guys. I guess this is what I expected in the end. Thank you for being concerned. What did you find? Todd glanced at Andy, who nodded, signaling it was time. Andy offered Jason a Coca-Cola, which he took gladly. Then Andy said, "Jason, I'm sorry, you should see this. We can leave if you need to." Jason thought for a moment. "I would appreciate that. Thank you." With that, both Andy and Todd left the room, giving Jason a brief hug before they went out. Once they were gone, Jason watched the tape. He saw his wife talking to another man, saying how much she enjoyed being with him. She mentioned that Jason was just a backup until she could take his money. He then looked at the footage from the car. He watched her pick up his boss, Albert Bosworth, a young man full of himself, with an impressive physique and an attitude to match. Tears streamed down Jason's face. He sat in silence, just letting the tears fall. He saw them kiss in the same car he had bought for Linda after working countless hours to afford it. It hurt him to see his wife with someone else, especially using the car that represented all his hard work. He watched in disbelief as his wife made light of their relationship, saying things that cut deep. Jason felt heartbreak as he saw them together. She seemed so happy, while he felt crushed. He heard her talking to Albert afterward, saying she needed to pretend to be happy with her loser husband when she got home. Albert laughed and suggested she should leave something behind for Jason, and they both found it funny. Jason remembered that night clearly. He felt angry, but he also wanted to keep up appearances, as he had not been intimate in over 3 weeks. Looking back now, he realized that if he had known the truth, he might have acted very differently. Eventually, the video stopped. After what felt like a long time, he opened the door to call Andy back in. When Andy entered, Jason spoke plainly. "I want you to start the divorce papers. I also want you to take legal actions against my boss, who I worked for over 4 years while missing out on promotions. I want everything prepared, but not sent out yet. I'm waiting for the DNA results about my daughter. In the meantime, I need your guy to keep an eye on what that woman is doing, especially who she is with. If I find out she is with someone else, we will deal with it. We'll add the names of every man who has come between us to a list. Just like they messed up my marriage and ruined my life. I am fully committed to this. Money is not a concern. When the time is right, I will hand her the divorce papers. Feel free to send the other documents to Junior or someone else." Andy did not say anything, and just nodded. "This situation cannot go on. I don't want to reconcile. I do not care how tough the judge is. I want them to have so much evidence against her that she will feel ashamed." After looking at him, Andy nodded again. "Consider this settled for the next week." Andy and his team did exactly what Jason asked. They gathered evidence and updated Jason regularly. With every piece of information he received, Jason learned not just about his wife's actions, but also about her partner. Each day he watched her and struggled with strong feelings of anger. He would see how kind she was to him, and it frustrated him, knowing it wasn't genuine. But still he waited as she gave him a kiss or hugged him. She was too absorbed in herself to even see how he felt. Finally, the day arrived. He had received the DNA results but wanted to open them in front of Andy. Not really for legal reasons, but because he had started to see Andy and Todd as friends, and he needed their support right now. He went to the office and was welcomed with a hug from Rebecca. "Whatever happens, good luck, Jason." Jason smiled and replied, "Thank you, Rebecca, for your help." He then entered Andy's office to meet him and Todd. Once inside, he handed the envelope to Andy and allowed him to open it. Andy did as asked and opened the envelope, reading the results out loud. "Jason, I'm really sorry. She is not your child." At that moment, Jason's heart shattered. He had considered the likely chance that Nicole was not his, but he still held on to hope. He loved that little girl deeply, from the day she was born to the moment he changed her first diaper, to when he took her to her first day of school and learned she was gifted and dreamed of working for NASA. He remembered how children in her position often felt lonely and isolated. Even if she would graduate sooner than her peers, he wanted her to enjoy as much of her childhood as possible, and she loved him for it. He put all his effort into loving and raising that little girl. So when he learned the hard truth that she was not his, he finally broke down. He cried and shouted in pain. His only friends were a private investigator and a lawyer. He had known them for just over a month. They were there for him. Rebecca, his friend, heard the noise and saw Jason. She hugged him, and he could only cry and share his sorrow. Once Jason calmed down, he simply said, "Do it." Later that day, Linda came home. She had just spent time with someone else and was still humming a tune she heard before. When she entered, she noticed it was dark inside, even though it was midday. As she closed the door, she saw Jason sitting on the couch, staring at her. This surprised her. "Jason, what are you doing here? You scared me." Jason replied with anger. "Scared? Does that require an actual heart?" Linda was shocked by his words. She had never seen him act like this before. "What do you mean?" she asked. "You need to calm down and talk to me properly." At that moment, Jason lost his patience and flipped the glass table over. Linda froze in fear. The look in Jason's eyes was intense. "Sit down, Linda." Without arguing, Linda took a seat as Jason turned on the TV. He showed her a video that left her in disbelief. She listened to the awful things said about her, seeing herself in a troubling situation. When the video ended, Jason threw an envelope at her feet. "I want a divorce and I want full custody of Nicole." Linda gasped and then found her voice again. "No way, Jason. I made a mistake, but you can't just leave this marriage and take my child. We can fix this together, can't we? If you fight me on this, I will make things very difficult for you." Linda stopped talking when she saw Jason hand her another envelope. "This is a restraining order. You can get your things, but not our daughter." "This is a court order, Linda. It's tough to ignore." Jason stands firm. Linda feels lost for words. She notices Jason's strong confidence, but deep down, she senses his weariness. He's tired of her lies and disrespect. She realizes he won't change his mind this time. Panic starts to set in for her. In a sudden move, she grabs a vase from the table and hits herself on the head. Jason is taken by surprise. "Are you crazy? You did that!" he exclaims. "The police won't believe this. You're just trying to put on a show." Linda smirks and says, "Tell them my husband attacked me with a vase. Make it a sad story. He tried to hurt me and our daughter, and I barely got away. You want a divorce? Not only will I stop that, but I will make your life miserable. The court will side with me just because I am a woman." She continues, "You have one more chance. We can forget this mistake, go to marriage counseling, and I can be the best wife ever. If not, your life will be ruined, and you might only see Nicole again when she's grown." Jason looks at her without showing any emotion, but he feels disgust for the woman he once loved. With a cold tone, he replies, "Go away, you cruel person." Linda glares at him with contempt. Then she dramatically screams and runs outside, making a scene. "Help me! Oh my God, someone help me! He's going to hurt me!" she cries. A neighbor notices and starts to call for help. Linda sees this and thinks, "Great, I can get the police to deal with him." She tells them that Jason hit her with a vase because he found out about her cheating and that he threatened both her and their daughter. Meanwhile, Jason calls Andy for support. When Andy arrives, he tells Jason not to say anything. By that time, the police have already put Jason in handcuffs and into the police car. Sitting in the back seat, Jason feels relieved that Nicole isn't here to see this. It would break her heart. He watches Linda fake her crying, which she turns off when the officer isn't looking, flashing Jason a sly grin. Just then, Jason spots a familiar 1967 Chevy Impala pulling up. The way the people get out reminds him of characters from his favorite TV show, and a small smile appears on his face. Todd and Andy arrived at the scene and asked to speak to the officer in charge. One officer was not interested in hearing them. "Get out of here. This is police business. If you don't want trouble, leave." Andy was not impressed, while Todd tried hard not to laugh at the tall, muscular officer. "I'm his lawyer, and I have proof that can clear him of the accusations." The young officer was about to respond, but the sergeant nearby overheard. "Is that true?" he asked. Andy and Todd confirmed, "Yes, sir, it is. With our client's permission, we have recordings from the house. We can show you if you ask us." The sergeant then took them to see Jason. When they arrived, they watched a video of Linda hitting herself with a vase and confessing that she would lie to blame him for her injuries. Linda did not know what was happening, but her confident smile faded when she saw them remove Jason's handcuffs. The young officer, now embarrassed and angry, approached Linda with the sergeant. "Ma'am, you are under arrest for making a false claim." While reading her rights, Linda panicked. "What are you doing? He hit me with the vase. Let me go. He should be arrested." She was eventually placed in the patrol car, complaining loudly. Resisting arrest was added to her charges. As Linda was taken away, Nicole came home from school. Jason saw her and realized he needed to have a tough conversation. "Dad, why was Mom in that cop car? What is happening?" Jason took a deep breath before hugging his little girl, who was not his daughter by blood, but fully his in his heart. "Sweetie, we need to talk." Once away from the outside drama, Jason led Nicole into the living room and asked her to sit down. She noticed that something was different. He was usually relaxed, but now he looked serious. He sat down beside her and held her hand. "Honey, I have something to tell you, and it won't be easy. Your mother and I have been having many problems lately. Problems that aren't fair to either of us, or to you. She was in that cop car because she hurt herself and tried to blame me." Nicole's eyes widened in surprise. Jason wanted to be careful. Nicole was clever, but she was still a child. "Why would Mom do that?" Nicole asked. Jason sighed. "Because your mother cheated on me, and we are getting a divorce." Jason watched as tears filled Nicole's eyes. "But won't that mean I won't see you? You're my dad." Jason took another deep breath. "That's something else we need to discuss. Your mom cheated on me before you were born, so I'm not your biological father." Jason sat silently, struggling to process Linda's words, but his daughter Nicole didn't hold back her emotions. She ran to him, tears streaming down her face. "No, don't say that. You are my dad. Please don't let this change anything," she cried, clinging to him. "I know Mom hurt you, but I promise I won't. You've always been there for me, and I love you. Please don't leave me." Jason broke down, hugging Nicole tightly. He gently held her face so she could look into his eyes. "Listen to me, honey," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You may not be my blood, but you are my daughter. That will never change. I love you, and I will never leave you. Do you understand?" Nicole nodded through her tears and hugged him even tighter. "I love you too, Dad. I love you so much." Father and daughter spent the rest of the night together, finding strength in each other as they prepared for the challenges ahead. Linda, meanwhile, faced a tough weekend in jail. She tried calling Albert, the man she had been seeing, for support, but he brushed her off, making it clear that her problems were hers alone. The rejection hit her hard. The man she thought cared about her turned his back on her without a second thought. She remained in custody until Monday, when she was able to post bail and hire a lawyer. Furious, Linda decided to sue Jason, determined to regain custody of Nicole. Shortly after, she was invited to meet Jason and his lawyer to discuss the situation. She was advised to bring her own attorney. The meeting took place the following day. Linda arrived with her lawyer and sat across from Jason and Andy. "Where's the other guy?" she asked snidely, but Andy ignored her question. "Mrs. Wynne," Andy began, "we have a proposal. If you agree to drop your lawsuit and relinquish all custodial rights to Nicole, there will be no alimony or child support. Nicole will be allowed to have a relationship with you if she chooses, but all visits will be supervised." Linda laughed bitterly. "Are you kidding me? You really think I'm going to agree to that? You're delusional," she scoffed. "Jason, you're pathetic. Albert is more of a man than you'll ever be." She stood, ready to leave, but Andy remained calm. Without a word, he played a video of Linda's actions, evidence of her reckless behavior. The footage included moments that would completely undermine her credibility in court. Linda froze as more videos played, each one more damaging than the last. There was footage of her attempting to stage injuries to accuse Jason falsely, among other compromising acts. Her lawyer looked increasingly concerned as the evidence stacked up, making it clear that continuing the lawsuit would not only fail, but could backfire on Linda significantly. By the end of the meeting, Linda sat in stunned silence, realizing the depth of her situation and the consequences of her actions. They had clear proof of her bringing Albert to their home. As more video played showing her relationships, her lawyer put her hands on her head in embarrassment. She was shocked to see her own partner with her client. That made her leave the room in tears, realizing her girlfriend was with someone else. Linda felt completely overwhelmed by everything that happened. 20 minutes later, another lawyer walked in. "Good afternoon. I will take over Miss Winter's case due to special circumstances." I am now Mrs. Wynn's lawyer. I have been briefed and know what is happening. I will talk with my client about her options." Both Andy and Jason nodded. 3 minutes later, the lawyer returned. When they sat down, Linda looked defeated. Her lawyer asked, "What are you offering?" Andy replied, "We are offering that she will not go to jail. We will drop all charges, including fraud. She will provide the names of the people she had relationships with and how long they lasted. She will also return to her maiden name, Summers. She will not go to prison. If her daughter agrees, she can have supervised visits." Linda whispered to her lawyer, who then agreed to Andy's terms. Linda signed the divorce papers and legal contracts regarding the damages. The next few weeks were filled with legal battles. Many people, including business owners and officials, were implicated in the scandal. It wasn't just that Linda had cheated, it was who she cheated with. There was a shareholder from New York, a business associate with connections in D.C., and a married senator. And then there was Albert and his father, which was damaging enough. With Andy's help, Jason sued everyone involved, causing significant trouble for them. In the end, Linda was left to deal with over $100 million in damages on her own, particularly from Albert and his father's company. When Albert heard the decision, he was furious. "You think you can do this to me? All because you couldn't satisfy your wife!" he shouted at Jason and Andy. "I'll make you pay!" Suddenly, Albert charged at Jason. Jason quickly dodged Albert, but then retaliated with a strong punch. Albert fell to the ground, injured. "Try flirting with a married woman now," Jason said harshly. Jason faced no charges for defending himself. When asked if he wanted to press charges against Albert, he agreed. To add to Albert's troubles, he was taken by the police. His father, Joseph, kept his eyes on Andy the entire time, not looking away for a moment. The next day, Jason was loading his furniture into a van. After everything that had happened, he wanted to leave the place that had hurt his family, disturbed his daughter's peace, and left him feeling lost. There wasn't much left in the house. He just needed to put one chair in the truck, and then he would be ready to go. He placed the chair inside and closed the door. He started cleaning up the house with the help of a few workers. One of the men approached him and said, "Hey, boss, someone is here to see you. A lady named Linda. Not sure what she wants. Does that name mean anything to you?" Jason didn't answer, trying to control his anger just from hearing her name. It wasn't just his feelings that were hurt. His little girl was affected too. He could still hear her cries and see her tears, afraid she would be left behind. He understood how hard it was for anyone in his situation to leave children, but he always knew he would love and protect his daughter from the moment she was born. He was determined to keep that promise. "It's fine, Paul. I'll handle it. Thanks for letting me know." He walked to the front door to find Linda waiting. She was dressed more modestly now, wearing jean shorts and a t-shirt. When she saw Jason, she approached him. "Hello, Jason. Thank you for—" "Stop!" Jason's voice was firm, which startled her. "I don't want to hear your excuses for what happened. You broke this family. I just need to know one thing." Tears began to fall from Linda's eyes as she listened to him. She thought there might be a chance for them, but it seemed unlikely that he would take her back now. Why? Who is Nicole's father? The question took Linda by surprise. Feeling taken aback, Jason continued, "Unlike you, I want to be truthful with those I care about. Nicole has a right to know where she comes from. We need to know if there are any health issues in her family history. If she wants the truth one day, I won't hide it from her. So tell me, who is he?" Linda looked down, embarrassed. "Some guy named Jeff. I was unfaithful with him when you were away on a business trip. We had a huge fight, and I met him at a bar. When Nicole was born, I knew she wasn't yours after the paternity test. I was scared to lose you. I loved you, Jason. I still do. No, Linda. You love the comfort that marriage gave you, and you took the easy way out. Don't try to fool me, Linda. You just don't want to put in the effort to make a marriage work." Jason looked at Linda as she cried, filled with shame and regret. "I don't want you near me or Nicole. The only way that might happen is if she wants it. I may not be her biological father, but I will do everything I can to ensure she is nothing like you. You." "Sorry, selfish person." Jason then handed Linda a letter. She cried. "She is not here, but with a friend before we leave. I asked her if she wanted you there. She said no. You will see your lawyer's signature at the top of the letter. Jason backed away from her. "Goodbye, Linda." Linda looked at the envelope in her hand and went to her car to read it. She couldn't embarrass herself more than she already had in front of him. Once inside her car, she tore open the envelope and saw the lawyer's signature, just as Jason said. She started to read. "Dear Linda, yes, I called you by name. I want you to know that I do not hate you. In fact, I still love you. You gave birth to me and Dad raised me. But you did it because you were afraid of Dad. Finding out the truth that he is not my biological father really hurt me when he told me. I may be young, but I'm not foolish. It wasn't just about that. The man who, regardless of any DNA connection, is my father would have to leave me. I couldn't think of being sent to an orphanage because I couldn't go with you after everything you did. It was the pain in his eyes that crushed me, knowing how much he cared for you and how much hurt you caused him. And I remind him of that pain. I do not hate you, Linda, but I'm not ready to call you Mom. Honestly, I'm not sure if I ever will be. Please do not contact me. Dad says you can update your information and give it to his lawyer, Andy, so I can reach out more easily. He will be the middleman. I heard how you hurt Dad. All of it. How could you do that to him? To us? I hope you find the help you need, Linda. And somehow, I hope you become a better person. Goodbye." By the time she finished reading the last line, tears fell on the paper. She cried and let out her pain, thinking back to her past mistakes. She had thought she was gaining strength, but in reality, she only had the power to hurt her family. Her family was gone, and all she had left were the broken pieces of her past. A young woman sat in a special room. She was already serving a 5-year sentence for a serious crime. In the prison, she had a special role and was well respected. At 5'1", she had a fit build. She was attractive, but she was not weak. She had come in on an assault charge, yet here she was now. Called from her cell, she learned she had visitors. But instead of being in a visitor room, she found herself in the chapel. A feeling settled in her mind that something was wrong, maybe even that someone close to her had passed away. But those thoughts faded when she noticed she was alone in the room. Then the door opened. 2 people walked in. One was a white woman, about 5'7", with short hair that reached her ears. She was fit, and even with an eye patch, she was attractive. Some might say the eye patch made her look even more interesting. She wore a black blazer over a white shirt, along with black pants and shoes. The man beside her was a tall black man with a shaved head and a neatly trimmed beard and mustache. He also wore a black blazer and matching pants, looking sharp in his dress shoes. Carmen knew they were law enforcement officers just by looking at them. The woman spoke first. "Hello, Carmen. I'm Ranger Robbins, and this is Captain Davis. We want to talk to you about Wallen and also about Maxine Gullett." Carmen froze at the mention of those names. The Rangers noticed her reaction. She started to fiddle with her hands as she sat. "I don't know much about Maxine other than she was on my reading list until it all happened," Carmen said. And as for Wallen, he was not a good person. He had a long list of complaints against him, and everyone knew about it. Ranger Robbins observed Carmen's downcast eyes and asked, "He hurt you, didn't he?" Carmen nodded slightly, and Robbins felt a jolt of understanding at her response. Robbins had decided to investigate Wallen and found he was truly corrupt. She started locating victims who had spoken out against him. Some were not telling the truth, but others had real evidence that had not yet come to light. The internal affairs team was on the verge of building a case against him. Then suddenly, some inmates took drastic actions. To say Wallen was a terrible person was an understatement. Robbins suspected that with the information she uncovered about him and his character, he might also be linked to a serious scandal that had shocked the area years ago. There was a video of a person who had a similar build and an unusual tattoo on his left shoulder. When they examined Wallen's body, they discovered a burn mark on that same shoulder. Some of the victims mentioned a tattoo of a wolf-like figure drooling over a young woman dressed as Little Red Riding Hood. Wallen had a red burn mark that looked healed but showed that something had been there before. It seemed he might have escaped by chance and secrecy. The man in the video always wore a microphone during his actions. Robin remembered the day when Tim and the others rescued her. Could it be that he escaped before the attack? She felt uneasy at the thought of him harming her friend in such a way. Robin knew what he was, but she needed Carmen to confirm it, to express her feelings and show that she could trust her. Captain Xavier then showed a photo. It featured 3 people at a comic convention. One was Carmen, wearing a Sisters of Battle armor costume, smiling alongside 2 others. One was a fit white man, around 5 feet 9 inches tall, dressed as an officer named Sebastian Yorick. He wore a patch over one eye and had a large claw-like arm made of foam. The other person was a white woman of average height, about 5 feet 3 inches, also in a Sisters of Battle costume. Hers was more detailed to the story. According to the background tale, her character was a sister who needed to prove herself to wear her armor again. The photo was handed to Carmen. A tear fell, but it was followed by a smile. They had gone to the convention 5 years ago when it was nearby. They had met a year before that. Robin thought she was a lesbian, but everything changed when she met them. They had such a warm and caring nature. They became friends without taking advantage of her, and their friendship grew into something deeper. While they helped her heal from her past, she found herself in love with both a man and his girlfriend. It was surprising how life turned out. They formed a unique bond, and their connection went beyond just physical attraction. After those intense moments, she would look beside her and see the people who loved and cared for her, people she would do anything to protect. She would face any challenge with a smile if needed. Carmen noticed the smile on Robin's face and returned it, wiping away her tears. Yes, they were a trio, 3 people in a relationship with each other. For the first time in years, Robin felt truly loved. They weren't just casual or wild individuals. They had disagreements, but they always supported each other. That day in the photo, I looked really happy. Sean had finally gotten me and Regina tickets to the convention. We usually had to travel far away for these events, but this one was nearby. We are big fans of Warhammer 40, and we couldn't believe our luck. But then things took a turn. At the convention, a woman made a really poor choice and started bothering Regina. I couldn't stand it anymore and reacted, which ended up with that woman hurt. Robin, who was watching, supported me in her thoughts. When I first heard about Wallen, I felt angry. He had hurt many women, and it was wrong. It frustrated me that people who spoke up were often dismissed, and Wallen felt like he could do whatever he wanted. Even when he passed away, it seemed no one truly understood what had happened. I sometimes wished that whatever ended his life could have also made sure he faced consequences for his actions. I had kept my distance from him for 5 years. I was tough, but I knew he was much stronger than me. One day, while I was cleaning in the chow hall, he approached me. I got ready, hoping to make it hard for him if he tried anything. He tried to act friendly, but I could see through it. He told me to think about my actions and hinted that he could overpower me if he wanted. I knew he might be right, but I stayed on guard. Carmen took a sip of soda from Robin before continuing. I asked Wallen what he wanted, and he smiled in a way that made me uneasy. He told me I was assigned to a different unit and that he had plans for me. I wanted nothing to do with whatever trouble he was up to. I reminded him that I would be leaving soon. Out of nowhere, he grabbed me quickly. He leaned in and spoke in a cruel tone. He warned me that I had to follow his orders, or he would make my life very difficult. It felt torturous hearing him talk like that, and I couldn't help but cry. He revealed he had a small camera and showed me footage from our home. I recognized our living room immediately. When he went upstairs, I felt my heart drop. There on the video were Sean and Regina in our bedroom. I saw they had been together in an inappropriate way, and he threatened Sean, bringing a knife near Regina. I pleaded with him, filled with fear and sadness. I'm the little tough one who, when it mattered, cried like a child, pleading for the safety of those I love. I agreed to his conditions for the next 2 months. I worked on a book project in the team he assigned me to. Until that day when tragedy struck a friend, inside I felt scared. I worried about 2 things. I might run out of time, or I could be in danger myself since I was seen as a risk. Thankfully, neither happened, as the person I feared was no longer a threat. So I stayed quiet. I didn't realize how chaotic things had become. Yes, I could have reported it, but I couldn't bear the thought of anyone I loved getting hurt. I didn't care about myself, but I cared deeply about them. Carmen then broke down, covering her face with her hands. Robin turned to her captain as if asking something, and he nodded in response. Carmen, I'm really sorry this happened to you. We don't want to charge you with anything more. We just needed your help to answer some questions, and you've done that. Thank you for cooperating. Carmen felt stunned. She thought they would want more from her, or even threaten her loved ones if she didn't go along with them. But it didn't matter. They were safe, yet here they were expressing gratitude, not asking her to sign anything to show she had turned against anyone. Carmen's head quickly lifted. Robin smiled. You're free next week. According to your paperwork, you and your loved one should check out a new restaurant called Heaven's Fire Pit. It will be the best barbecue you've ever tasted. Thank you. Going home would be a wonderful chance for you both. Carmen allowed a smile through her tears. I will do that. Thank you. As Robin and Xavier drove to their office, Robin broke the silence. So we have a contract killer who surprisingly didn't know about Carmen and her partners. Otherwise, she would be in danger as well. He might have been used to reach Maxine, I believe. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and Xavier was hit in the chest. Robin shouted as she tried to control the car, but it was too late. The car veered off a curb and rolled into a small ditch below. Flames engulfed the vehicle. The explosion echoed for miles. A striking woman emerged from the shadows, holding a sniper rifle on her shoulder. She walked towards the cliff like a predator watching her prey, talking to herself. It's a shame to lose such a beautiful life. The man didn't matter to me. But you, my dear, have quite the reputation. 300 confirmed sniper shots during your service. Your marksmanship is legendary. You stopped a hostage situation with a precise shot from 50 yards away, even after losing an eye. It's hard not to admire that. I'm afraid I have to leave this world. You are such a beautiful person. The woman stepped closer to the edge. As she looked down, she saw the burnt body of the driver, and Robin's body was crushed on the other side. Goodbye, my dear. I will soon send your husband to be with you. Your children will be well cared for in our organization. Suddenly, the woman was struck multiple times. Each shot was precise. 2 bullets hit her knees, another hit her side, and one more struck her stomach. The woman tried to fight back, but lost her aim. Her other hand went for her backup weapon, but that was taken out too. The woman was hit 7 times before she fell to the ground. She heard footsteps approaching, but she couldn't move. When she saw who it was, shock took over. My God, you're beautiful. Robin then lifted her weapon. You were my best friend and father. Why? Robin asked, and the woman just smiled, blood staining her teeth. Because you and your partner were too close. That family law investigation attracted some dangerous people. At that moment, the woman quickly raised her arm with a small gun, able to fit in her palm. The woman was ready, but Robin was quicker and fired one shot that ended it all. No one will harm my family. Robin looked at the woman's body and then moved to the edge of the cliff to see her friend and father figure below. In her grief, she cried and called for help, giving directions about this tragic night. The next few weeks were a mix of feelings. Robin went to the hospital after jumping from a falling car. Her injuries were not serious. Andy and the kids were there for her, providing support. Even after losing her father figure, Robin felt anchored by her family, knowing she would need them now more than ever. Andy held her tight, and she squeezed him back. I thought I lost you, sweetheart. No, you and the kids are stuck with me for a while longer. The kids hugged Robin tightly, too. Eventually, Robin regained her strength and wrote the report for her and Xavier's investigation. When the time came, Robin attended her fallen captain's funeral. He had no family except for the Texas Rangers, and he was honored properly. He was buried with full respect next to her parents. They not only solved cases together, but were also very close friends. Robin felt it was right for friends to be together again. Everyone who knew him, college friends, co-workers, and even people who once made mistakes but respected him, came to pay their respects. This showed the love and admiration people had for Xavier Davis. After the funeral, Robin received the Commissioner's Medal of Valor for solving the case and helping to keep people safe. She also got a big surprise when she was promoted to lieutenant. Andy and the kids cheered for her in the audience. They were very proud of her, but there were also some unexpected guests. Susan and Todd were there, along with Tim Kelly and his wife Janine, as well as Mark, Patrick, and a little girl Robin didn't recognize. A wave of pride washed over her as she saw these familiar faces. She thought of her parents and Captain Xavier Davis, remembering that family can take many forms. In fact, her family was about to grow in a few weeks. Robin set up her new office and, while unpacking, found a picture that brought tears to her eyes. It showed her parents and Captain Davis in their gear, all smiling even in the face of danger. It felt as if they were celebrating. "I guess that's just who you were," she thought. "I'm here because of you. Thank you." Robin kissed the picture and placed it on her wall. Just then her phone rang. "Robin, it's Dan at the coroner's office. Can you come here right now? I found something important." Without hesitation, Lieutenant Robin headed to the coroner's office. When she arrived, Dan greeted her at the door. Robin appreciated Dan. He might seem a bit quirky, but she valued his attention to detail and his kindness. "Thanks for coming on such short notice, Robin. I know it's late, but you'll want to see this," he said as they walked to the morgue. There, they examined the body of the woman who had killed Captain Davis and tried to harm Robin. Robin noticed that even in death, the woman had an unusual beauty. "We've searched for any identification but found nothing, no marks, no tattoos. The body will be disposed of since no one is claiming it. This reminds me of something that happened in Hard Rock, Texas a few months ago." Dan continued, explaining how women had been found with capsules in their necks, part of a terrible plot by a group that harmed women. His girlfriend had been on the team that dealt with those situations. Dan then revealed one of the capsules, carefully kept in a sturdy case. "I've never seen anything like this before," he said. Just then, Dan's phone rang. "Hello? Yeah, come on back. It's right down the hallway to the elevators." Then we headed down to the basement level. We stood right in front of the elevator doors. Dan glanced back at Robin. "I know we don't often take risks, but we're all in law enforcement, and it's important to catch the bad guys before they hurt anyone. I believe Maxine was going to make a deal, and the people behind her were connected to her. I thought we could use some help ahead of time." Suddenly, the elevator doors opened, and a man walked in. He was about 6 feet tall, with a strong and lean build. He looked to be between 45 and 50, but appeared as if he could handle himself if needed. Robin noticed he had a military background and was no stranger to tough situations. The man spoke. "Hello, Lieutenant Robbins. I'm Sheriff Justine Miller from Hard Rock, Texas." He then tossed a small capsule to her, similar to the one Dan had. "I think we need to talk." Meanwhile, in a villa in Windsor, UK, a woman in her mid-30s was feeling frustrated. She suddenly pushed the young man away from her. "That will be all, Leo. I have no more use for you now. I'll call you when I do. Please, leave now." The young man exited quietly. At that moment, her antique phone rang and irritation crossed her face. "Is it done yet?" she demanded. "No, miss, but there is more. Our sister has fallen." There was a brief pause. "Say that again." "Our sister has fallen. The situation she was to handle has overwhelmed her." Silence filled the room for 10 seconds. Then the woman threw a jar of brandy against the wall, shattering it. "Why did this happen? Who caused this?" "It was the situation, ma'am, that caused it." Suddenly, the woman felt a wave of fear. She realized what had happened to the assassin she sent after Maxine and what she was capable of. She knew about the many challenges the assassin had faced before, but to have someone stop her like this was shocking. As she listened, she heard, in detail, what had occurred from the first moment to the last. When it was over, she sat in her chair, feeling amazed and fearful. A Texas Ranger, a woman, had taken out their best assassin. After taking a deep breath and a sip from her glass, she said, "It seems we have a new contender we underestimated. If that is the case, we must act. Call the 4 horsemen." The woman on the other line gasped. "You want me to call them? Surely we can find another way." "I didn't ask you to think," she replied sharply. "I ordered you to make the call." "Do as I said, or I will send you back to that horrible place I saved you from." There was a pause. "Yes, madam. I will send the message." Madeline sipped her drink before speaking again. "Good. Claire, that will be all." She hung up the phone, realizing where she had thrown the jar of brandy. Her mind was busy with thoughts about why this was happening and how things had come to this. But mostly, she fixated on her desire to take action against this woman and her entire family. No one should stand against the sisterhood. In this new era, those who oppose them would face consequences. Madeline smiled to herself, knowing that this moment would eventually come to an end, and she would be the one left standing. A woman dried off after taking a shower. She paid a young man for his services and then made a call to an unknown number. Hello? Yes, Maxine hasn't been able to keep her clothes clean. It has cost her. We won't help her any longer. Everything has already been decided. Despite the trouble she brought us, there is this lawyer, Andy Robbins, and his wife, Texas Ranger Sergeant Robin Robbins. I suspect they will become a challenge for us. Yes, I will keep you updated. After hanging up, the woman looked at the photos of the people she had just mentioned. She felt a mix of fear and excitement. Finally, there was someone worth pursuing. Austin Maximus Brown was in his room, looking out the window and reflecting on how he got there. When people talk about lifelong friends, they rarely mean those who grow up together, go to school together, and then start a business together. But that is my story with Alistair Brown and Charles Xavier. We have been friends since we could talk, supporting each other through everything. This bond led us to create Max Legal Services. Our journey started in a small neighborhood in Boston where Charles and I attended school. We quickly realized we were inseparable. By high school, we had a shared dream to make a difference in the world. We didn't know what form it would take, but law caught our interest. We all wanted to defend people's rights, support important causes, and change lives. So we decided to go to law school together. It wasn't easy. Long nights filled with studying, endless exams, and a few broken coffee machines along the way. But we motivated each other, challenged each other, and helped each other bounce back after a setback. When we graduated, we faced another important choice. Where would we go next? Working at big law firms might have been safe, but we had a different vision in mind. We wanted to create something of our own, a place where our unique style and values could shine. So we took a risk and began our own firm, Max Legal Services. The name? It started as an inside joke. Maximus was a reminder to me that we should always strive for our best efforts, aiming for the best results and support for our clients. As I sat in the office, Alistair walked in, holding a coffee and grinning. So, Maximus, he said, taking a seat across from me. When's the wedding with Christine? Don't leave us in suspense. This is serious, I chuckled, hoping to avoid the question. Let's not rush things, Alistair, I replied, shaking my head. We're taking our time. The truth was, Christine and I were good together. After a year of late-night phone calls and unwinding together after trials, it felt steady and maybe even right, but Alistair wouldn't let it go. Come on, Max. It's been a year. She's smart, ambitious, and honestly, she might be the only one who keeps up with you. Just then, Charles came in and caught the end of our chat. He frowned. Maximus, don't do it, he said straightforwardly. She's trouble and you know it. She's from Harrington and Ross. How can you be sure she's not playing you? She's competition. I sighed and leaned back. Charles had made his feelings about Christine clear before. Come on, Charles, I replied. Christine is her own person and we keep things separate. Whatever you think, it has nothing to do with firm rivalry. People said we couldn't work together either. But look where we are. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the exciting stories we have coming up. What do you think about the characters in this story? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.